My mother is extremely traditional. When I was choking on an egg, she wouldn't let anyone touch my chest to perform first aid. A man ignored her protests and performed the Heimlich maneuver on me, yet she turned around and tried to extort money from him. I accused someone of groping my chest and demanded compensation for defamation. Having failed to extort anything, she shoved me out with force. You'd be better off dead. How can you even show your face after letting someone do that to you? As she wished, I was run over and killed by an oncoming truck. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day she took me out for breakfast. I handed her the peeled egg. Here, Mom, have an egg. One. My mother has always been a hasty eater. She took the egg and popped the whole thing into her mouth. She didn't even notice I had taken her water. Just as I expected, she started choking. Thumping her chest and pointing at the water, she gestured for me to hand it over. I pretended to be clueless and as I stood up, I deliberately knocked over the glass in front of me. Mom, what's wrong? Her face was flushed crimson, her eyes filled with despair and terror as she stared at the spilled water. It looked exactly like how I had begged her to save me in my past life. I opened my mouth slowly, like a sloth. Mom, do you want some water? She lunged at me, trying to slap my face, her eyes blazing with fury, choking. She tried to stand but immediately staggered. Her commotion drew the attention of those nearby. People around her jumped to their feet in alarm, shouting, "She's choking. Girl, go get help. Quick." I know the Heimlich maneuver, but the thought of all her cruelty in my past life made me not want to save her, so I stood there, pretending to be scared and looking utterly helpless. But deep down, I was thrilled. It's about time she got a taste of that desperate, suffocating feeling. She always drilled into me that a woman must have self-respect and no shame, that I'd rather die than let a man touch me before marriage. From the time I was little, she never allowed me to speak to boys. Even if I just glanced at one, she'd yank my ear and call me a slut. She deliberately made me look ugly, giving me a choppy, uneven fringe. I even had to wear clothes made from her hand-me-downs. My ridiculous appearance and tacky, mismatched outfits made me a target for mockery and bullying. Whenever I came home covered in bruises, she always seemed pleased. That way, she could go make a scene at the bully's parents' house and demand compensation. Then she'd take that money to live the high life, indulging in fine food and drink, and decking herself out in all her finery. But to me, she'd only ever say one thing: as long as no man touches you, what's the big deal? Now, with our lives on the line, I'm going to see what choice she makes, too. In my past life, I was choking and begged her for help, yet, with a face full of disgust, she slammed my head against the table, dragging it back and forth, faking it. I'll teach you to fake it. How could a simple egg choke you to death? I bet you just think the boss's son is handsome and are trying to get his attention. How can you be so vile at such a young age? She clearly saw I was turning blue from choking, yet she did nothing. It wasn't until that uncle rushed over, snatched me from her, and performed the Heimlich maneuver on me. Even after I coughed up half an egg and was gasping for air, she was still cursing me, calling me a worthless brat putting on an act. Not only did she call me a slut, but she also grabbed the uncle who saved me and wouldn't let him leave. She brazenly tried to extort him, saying, "You touched my daughter's chest. You have to pay compensation for damaging her reputation." The uncle was so furious he kept calling her unreasonable, and the bystanders were all pointing and whispering about her. She didn't care one bit. In fact, as the crowd grew larger, she took the opportunity to yank off my little camisole. "Just look at this. My daughter's barely started developing, and this beast already groped her. How is she ever supposed to get married now? He took my daughter's first touch. He got such a huge favor, so what's wrong with him paying a little compensation?" She kept jabbing my forehead and ranting, making everyone around shake their heads and look at me with pity in their eyes. An older woman came over, taking off her coat to shield me, but she just glared her away, unable to deal with her. Everyone worked together to hold her back, allowing that man to leave first, having failed to extort any benefit. My mother's gaze towards me turned venomous. She kicked me out the door. "You'd be better off dead. How dare you keep living after letting someone touch you like that? You're just wasting food and polluting the air." And just like that, I was run over and killed by a passing semi-truck. The moment I was lying under the truck, she just rolled her eyes before a sly smile crept back onto her face. Looking back, she was happy because she was about to receive a huge compensation payout. In this life, the man sitting in the corner rushed over as he always did. 3. Seeing this, I sprang up like a little lion and blocked his way. "Don't you touch my mom." My mom said she'd rather die than let another man lay a hand on her. She also said all men are bad, every single one of them is filthy. Before I could finish, my mom slapped me aside and threw herself into that uncle's arms, begging for help. I couldn't help but scoff. When it's your own life on the line, you really stop caring about everything else. The man immediately picked her up and began performing the Heimlich maneuver. Meanwhile, I quietly took the phone she had dropped and captured the moment. After a long moment, my mother spat out the egg, her face ashen as she gasped for breath beside me. Just like in a past life, that uncle didn't make a fuss and simply turned to leave. Before leaving, he gave me a meaningful look and said, "Little girl, what your mother said isn't right. There are still plenty of good people in this world." Seeing my swollen, slapped face, he reached out as if to pat my head, but then my mother, having caught her breath, rushed over and slapped my uncle's hand away. "You bastard, get your filthy hands off her. If you want to touch her, you pay first. You're impossible. You don't deserve to be a mother." With that, my uncle shook his head and left. Once he was gone, she grabbed me by the ear and started yelling, "You little wretch, was that on purpose just now? Were you trying to kill me?" I burst into tears with a loud wail. "You're the one who taught me those words." I was just keeping them in mind, always. She never expected that I, who used to not dare make a peep, would break down and cry in front of everyone, with others watching. She had no choice but to let go of me. "Just you wait until we get home." When we got home, Dad had already cooked dinner, for, hearing our voices, he came out to greet us with a beaming smile. "Sweetheart, you're finally back." That sweetheart wasn't meant for me. It was for my mom. My mom really knows how to charm my dad. She's always going on about staying virtuous and keeping to herself. On top of that, with her pretty face and great figure, my dad absolutely adores and dotes on her. My father firmly believed that my mother was the most pure and flawless woman in the world, but for some reason, this time when he called out sweetheart, his gaze fell on me. Seeing my father's attention shift to me, I began to whimper softly and pitifully. In a rare move, my father immediately bent down and asked me anxiously, "Serafina, what's wrong?" I burst into tears with a loud wail. "Dad, Mom almost died just now." My dad's face changed. "What happened?" But my mom stammered, "And nothing's wrong. Don't listen to her nonsense." As she said this, she yanked me hard. "You little liar. Who are you saying is going to die? Looks like you're asking for trouble today. I'll teach you a lesson you won't forget." Terrified, I hid behind my dad and clung to his leg. "Daddy, I'm not lying. That uncle saved Mommy by holding her like this and that. If you don't believe me, look, I even recorded it." I stopped crying, pulled out the phone Mom had dropped, and handed it over. In the video, the man's hands were cradling my mother just below her chest. This is clearly a heroic act of courage, the very embodiment of righteous light, but to those with dirty minds, everything looks dirty. Growing up, my father always deferred to my mother's way of raising me, so, deep down, he's kept from the same cloth as her, stubbornly old-fashioned and utterly self-righteous. So, my dad's expression changed in a flash, which was rare for him. Seeing this, my mom hurriedly explained, I was choking. That man was saving me. We should thank him later." How novel. Since when does saving someone require hugging their chest? You should be thanking him. "Looks to me like you were enjoying it." My dad pointed at my mom, who was gripping the man's hand out of fear. Seeing her look so guilty and scared made me want to laugh. "So now you know you should be grateful." Unable to explain herself, she turned her anger on me instead. "It's all your fault, you little brat, feeding me eggs. You did it on purpose to hurt me. I'm going to beat you to death today." With surprising strength, she grabbed me and began slapping my face, over and over. Dazed and reeling from the blows, I kept wailing and screaming, "I told that man not to touch you, but you were the one who ran over and begged him to pick you up. Is this even true?" My father's face turned livid with rage. He stepped in, stopping my mom, and asked me, "Are you telling the truth?" I sobbed, my voice choked with tears. "Daddy, I wouldn't dare lie." Mom's stammering sent Dad into a rage. The man who would usually hear her out had already unbuckled his belt by the time he turned around. I don't think I'd ever seen my father like that before. My mother turned deathly pale, scrambling under the table as she pleaded and begged for mercy, but my father closed in on her, completely ignoring her explanations. As I pretended to be scared and shut the door, the belt cracked through the air with a sharp, clear sound. It was accompanied by my mother's pleading voice, choked with sobs. Hearing the agonized cries from outside, I felt a surge of intense excitement, yet a flicker of resentment still lingered within me. How could the sting of a leather belt ever compare to the agony of being crushed by a semi-truck? My mother was so guilt-ridden because she was carrying a secret when she married my father. In her youth, she worked the streets, the kind that charged $2.50 a pop. After earning enough money to buy my uncle an apartment, she went and got a hymenoplasty, then returned to the countryside to play the part of a pure, innocent maiden. After finally snagging a decent, gullible man like my dad to settle down with, she took that whole act of feigned traditional virtue to a whole new level. After I was born, she used me as a prop in her performance. Day after day, in front of my dad, she'd lecture me about how a woman must have self-respect and no shame, and that like her, I mustn't let a man touch me before marriage. She'd even slip in a little self-praise, claiming it was her first time with Dad. As she spoke, she'd shyly lower her head and steal glances at my father. It filled my dad with a pride so intense it was almost painful. I was still quite young when I learned the secret. Back then, my uncle came to our house to demand money. I heard him say to my mom, "You managed to earn me an entire apartment just by lying down. And now you're telling me you don't have this little bit of cash." I don't buy it for a second. In my childish ignorance, I actually felt a sense of pride. How was my mom so amazing that she could make money just by lying down? It wasn't until I heard my desk mate at school gossiping about her relative's scandal that the penny finally dropped. That mother of mine, who was always preaching to me about a woman's need for self-respect, was rotten to the core all along. She was just terrified that Dad would find out she was using my upbringing as a cover. The very thought of it makes my blood boil. In this life, I'm determined to expose her for who she really is. The next day, when my uncle came to demand an explanation, I sat quietly on the side, biding my time and waiting for the right moment. 7. My uncle is a freeloader, and my mother, of all people, is an enabler who spoils her brother rotten. For years, most of the money my father worked so hard to earn was taken by my mother to subsidize him. My dad had no other skills, so he could only make a living by doing manual labor. He couldn't bear to see my mom's delicate hands get rough, so he never let her do any work. He would even rush home from work every day to cook for her. All my mom did every day was play mahjong and beat me. Whenever we were short on money and my dad asked about it, my mom would say I had squandered it. She'd claim I got into a fight at school, hurt someone, and had to pay compensation. But the truth is, I was the one who got beaten up. She was the one who went and made a scene, demanding money from the other party, yet every time she got the money, she'd threaten me, saying if Dad asked, I had to tell him it was all my fault. My father never had time for me, and he'd believe whatever my mother said about me, so it was common for me to get beaten up at school, only to come home and get another beating from my dad. In my past life, I was timid and cowardly, too afraid to resist and could only obey her, out of fear. I never dared to cry, scream, explain, or beg for mercy. If I could live my life over, I wouldn't be this foolish again. Brother-in-law, you beat my sister up like this. What do you have to say for yourself? My uncle had a cigarette dangling from his mouth, looking every bit the thug. My father was afraid of my uncle, that hoodlum, and could only ingratiate himself by offering a lighter. Well, you know how couples are. They fight, but they make up just as quick. To hell with you and your mother. Uncle Jasper shot to his feet. Give me 100 grand, and we'll call it even. Jasper, please, don't be like this. Where would we get that kind of money? My mother said meekly, offering him a glass of water. If you don't have it, I'll burn your damn house down. He knocked the glass away and started flicking his lighter. Mom and Dad were so terrified, their faces turned ashen, pretending to be scared. I walked over and grabbed my uncle's sleeve. Uncle, please, I'm begging you, don't burn our house down. Didn't you say my mom earned you a whole apartment just by lying there before? My mom could earn this measly 100 grand in no time. I turned to look at my mom again, my eyes welling up with tears. Right, Mom. The proudest achievement of my dad's life was marrying my mother. 8. The wife he believed to be pure and flawless was now glaring at me with a ferocious expression. What nonsense are you spouting, you worthless brat? Shut your mouth. If you keep lying, I'll tear it right off your face. Seeing her charge at me to hit me, I grabbed my father first, tilting my little head up pitifully. Daddy, I'm not lying. This is what Uncle said last time when he came to ask Mom for money. Mom handed him the money the moment Uncle said that, and it was a whole stack this thick. I gestured with my hands, watching my dad's expression carefully. My quiet voice landed like a bomb, making Dad's eyes blaze red as he glared at Mom through gritted teeth. Is what Serafina said true? Did you give him money behind my back? Elias, you, after all these years I've been with you, you still don't trust me? My mother blinked her eyes pitifully, as she always did, and leaned closer to my father. My father responded by slapping her. You gave all the money I worked my fingers to the bone for to him. Seeing that this was what he was upset about, my mother let out a slight sigh of relief and seemed less panicked. I lent it to him. I didn't give it away. Borrow. Did I ever fucking pay it back? My dad's eyes were bloodshot, blazing with fury. My mom, terrified, hid behind my uncle. Jasper, hurry up and explain this to your brother-in-law. Explain my ass. My uncle, notorious for his fearlessness, shot back. So what if I borrow and never return? A cuckolded bastard like you dares to ask for the money back. You've got a death wish. My uncle's voice was low, but every word was an insult, and he blew smoke right into my father's face. After a stunned pause of a few seconds, my father suddenly charged into the kitchen like a madman and grabbed a cleaver. Come on then. Let's see who's got a death wish. You think just because the tiger doesn't roar, it's a sick cat. My father started wildly swinging the cleaver. In an instant, all hell broke loose. Pots, pans, bowls, and dishes went flying and shattered all over the floor. Good thing my uncle dodged fast, or his head would have been split open. As the saying goes, the timid fear the bold, and the bold fear the reckless. Seeing my father's murderous rage, my uncle quickly made himself scarce. My mother crouched in the corner, trembling with her head in her hands. Elias, let's talk this through. Please, put the knife down first. It would have been better if she'd kept quiet. The moment she spoke, my dad rushed over and held the knife to her throat. Explain, he demanded. What did Serafina mean just now? What do you mean, you lay down and earned your brother an apartment? My mother was so terrified she couldn't get a word out for the longest time. In the past, whenever they argued, I'd be so scared I'd hide, but this time, I just stood there quietly on the sidelines, watching with a cold detachment. When my eyes met my mother's, I gave her a faint, tight-lipped smile. She glared at me with a ferocious expression, but unlike in my past life, I wasn't afraid. I stared right back at her, seeing that look on her face, the one that said she couldn't stand me but couldn't do a thing about it, filled me with immense satisfaction. You wretched girl. Get over here right now and tell your father you were talking nonsense, after all I've done for you, keeping you well-fed and comfortable, and this is how you repay me. I glanced down at my tattered clothes, let out a soft, bitter laugh, and slowly walked over. With my head bowed, I whispered to my father, Dad, maybe I misheard. That apartment, Mom didn't just get it for nothing. I could see my mom visibly relax as I said that. So I decided to add one more thing, maybe. Maybe my mom earned it on her feet. Hearing this, her face changed completely and she lunged at me to hit me. I never should have given birth to a little bastard like you. I should have gotten rid of you when I had the chance. 9. Have you lost your mind or are you trying to start a rebellion these past couple of days? Can't you even speak properly anymore? I ran around clutching my head and wailing, Don't hit me, don't hit me. I don't know anything. I'm telling the truth. This was accompanied by the basins and cups I had deliberately knocked over. Amidst all the chaos and commotion, my dad seemed to snap back to reality and zero in on the key point. He grabbed my mother by the hair and snarled, Who the hell are you calling a bastard? I stopped in my tracks, the pain still burning, and added through my sobs, Dad, Granny Chin next door said a child born to a whore is a bastard. Fuck, my father's hand, still gripping the knife, came down with a loud clang on the table, just inches from my mother. So you're calling me a bitch? Huh, you just wait. I'm going to your place to get to the bottom of this, and then I'm coming back to deal with you. My father grabbed a knife and stormed out, heading straight for my grandmother's house. It took my mother a long moment to recover before she stumbled to her feet and rushed out after him. I trailed behind her, watching her stumble every few steps. The sight was so comical. I was absolutely delighted. My mother, however, was in such a fluster that she completely failed to notice me behind her, practically jumping for joy. As we walked on, I realized this was definitely not the way to Grandma's house. I saw my mother turn and approach a small house at the village's edge, where she knocked on the door. After a moment, a head poked out and looked around. Whoa, it's Uncle Zhang, the one who always buys me snacks. Uncle Zhang isn't from around here. I think he moved from the city just 2 years ago. My dad was the one who helped him rent this little house at the end of the village from a local. He'd often have a drink and play cards with my dad. If he ran into my mom walking me to school, he'd call her sister-in-law, say hello, and slip me some snacks. Who would have thought someone so seemingly refined could be so despicable? He yanked my mom inside. I crept along the wall, then crouched down by the corner to eavesdrop. Elias, that old bastard, is back today, isn't he? What are you doing coming to see me? Oh no, this is terrible. That old son of a bitch is going to find out about my past. My mother's voice was frantic and panicked, choked with tears. Old Zhang, what are we going to do if he finds out about my past, and about us now? If he finds out most of the money he's made these past 2 years ended up in your pocket, he'll kill us. What's the matter? Calm down. Uncle Zhang remained unfazed. I gave him a woman, so what if he supports me? I was doing him a favor, if anything. Holy cow. The more I listened, the more unbelievable it became. So it seems I wronged my uncle after all. So this is where the bulk of that money went. Oh, Mom, with all your talk of morality and self-respect in front of Dad, you've really outdone yourself. Just thinking about it, I could practically see my dad's head glowing with a vibrant shade of green from a mile away. You head back first. He doesn't suspect a thing from me yet. Tonight, we'll work from the inside and out, strike first to gain the upper hand, and put him firmly in his place. And from now on, I'll have the bastard waiting on me hand and foot. Hearing my mom's footsteps approaching, I took off like a shot, but in my mind, I was already scheming. I won't let you get away with your little show tonight. Afraid my mom would catch up, I took the long way around, but before I even made it home, I ran into my dad, squatting by the field and smoking. 10. A pile of cigarette butts littered the ground, and my father had driven the kitchen knife into the ridge of the field. It was obvious, my father had never gone to my grandmother's house at all, standing behind him, watching his back. I felt for some reason that he seemed different, all these years. My father had barely paid me any attention, uneducated, he was inherently rigid and stubborn. After years of my mother's nagging, he simply went along with her way of dealing with me, but come to think of it, he never once laid a hand on me all those years, so, my feelings toward him are hard to put into words. Back then, I only ever saw him as a familiar stranger, but now, watching his retreating figure, I was struck by a strange mix of pity and resentment. I stood rooted to the spot. Caught between leaving and staying, in that moment of hesitation, my father turned and saw me. It was then I noticed something different in the way my father looked at me. "Dad," I called out softly. "Serafina." Dad stood up and took my hand. "I didn't want to ask in front of your mother just now, but when did you find out about those things?" I looked up at my father in surprise. "You knew all along, Dad." "You wouldn't understand even if I told you," my father sighed. "In your past life, after you were killed by the car, the other party paid a huge sum in compensation. Your uncle came to the house to threaten your mother for the money. It was because I overheard his threats that they beat me to death. That's why I held back from going to your uncle this time. If something happened to me, that venomous woman, your mother, would get off scot-free." It all clicked in an instant. So my dad had been reborn too. I was ready to take your mother down with me. But then I saw that you had also come back. I couldn't bear to leave you all alone. At this point, my father seemed to remember something. His eyes lit up as he looked at me. "Serafina, are you also reborn?" By the time Dad said this, I was already crying. I nodded at him vigorously. "Dad, in my past life, it was Mom who pushed me out into the street. That's how I got hit by the car." Hearing this, Dad was stunned for a moment. Then, he sniffled and smacked his own forehead. "It's all my fault. It's all my fault for blindly trusting everything your mother said in our last life. I made you suffer so much." He moved to hug me, but I instinctively took 2 steps back. After all these years of distance, the sudden closeness left me at a loss. His hand hung in the air. "Serafina, can you ever forgive me?" I neither nodded nor shook my head. After a long pause, I slowly began to tell my father about the conversation I had just overheard between my mother and Uncle Jean. The more he listened, the angrier my father became, his veins bulging with rage. "So he's the one who threw me into the sewer in my past life." He immediately grabbed a kitchen knife, took my hand, and said, "Come on, let's go home. Daddy's going to get our revenge." To catch her in the act, Dad told me to keep quiet. After we got home, Dad went to the old house to dig up the traps he used to catch wild boars. Seeing that Dad didn't scold or hit her when he returned, Mom, for once, went into the kitchen and started cooking. 11. Noticing me standing to the side, she even shot me a rather smug glance. "Your father loves me so much, you think he'd actually doubt me because of a few words from you? What a joke. You just wait. Once I've smoothed things over with your dad, I'll deal with you." After saying that, she even hummed a tune while making my dad's favorite braised pork belly. When my dad entered the room, she brought the wine and dishes to the table, trying to butter him up. "Elias, I made your favorite braised pork belly, and I went out of my way today to buy your favorite wine." Seeing her act so smug, thinking she has everyone wrapped around her finger, really grinds my gears. On top of my irritation, I'm also worried tonight's plan might fall through, so I decided to stir things up. I snatched the jug of wine she had brought before my father and flung it straight in her face. Caught completely off guard, she was left stunned and drenched. She never in her wildest dreams imagined I'd have the nerve to throw wine in her face. Realizing what was happening, she grabbed a plate and was about to hurl it at my face. Before she could throw it, my dad snatched it away and smashed it right onto her head. "You bitch, I'm warning you, you're never to lay a hand on our daughter again." My mother, ignoring the pain, stared at us in utter shock. For a long moment, her wails echoed through the entire house. "You're all insane, every last one of you. Just you wait." The moment she said that, I knew we were in for a real show tonight. I kept my ears pricked, listening intently for any sound from outside. Before long, I heard the faint, rustling sound of someone scrambling over the wall. Within seconds, Uncle Zhang's agonized cries rang out. 12. The middle of the night, I rushed out after my father to see Uncle Zhang's leg caught fast, bleeding profusely with the flesh torn open. My father grabbed a stick and started beating him with it, making him howl in pain. My mother was beside herself with worry, pacing frantically, but too afraid to step in and stop it. The pity was, while she could endure it, Uncle Zhang, who was being beaten to within an inch of his life, could not. He yelled straight at my mom. "Mabel, what the hell are you standing there for? Help me." The moment those words left his mouth, My dad swung a club at my mom's head. You filthy scum, I'll beat you both to death today. You really think I don't know about all your dirty little secrets from the past? Don't think for a second I don't know what kind of crap you've been pulling behind my back. Mabel, you must really take me for a sucker. Eating my food, drinking my drinks, wearing my clothes, and then using the money I gave you to raise your daughter to support some man. Watching my mother being beaten and screaming in agony, I jumped up and shouted, mimicking exactly how she used to watch me get bullied. What a brilliant, fantastic, absolutely top-notch beating. Go, Dad. You can do it. Keep it up, Dad. You're the best. Once he'd tired himself out, my dad kicked them towards the door and growled, I'm warning you. I'll beat you up every single time I see you from now on. The whole commotion became the talk of the town. All the neighbors were secretly laughing at my dad for being a cuckold, but my dad no longer prioritized saving face like he used to. 13. He would only raise his voice when people mocked me for being the child of a whore. He took me to buy new clothes, got me a neat haircut, and even went to the school to warn the kids who were bullying me. Yet, I just can't feel close to him all these years. It seems he never fulfilled his duties as a father toward me. I do hold resentment toward him. If only he had shown me a little more care back then, I wouldn't have been bullied like that by others. Sensing my mood, he, who had grown quiet himself, started cooking me delicious meals every day, each one different, and driving me to and from school. A few peaceful days passed like this, and then I ran into my mom. It had only been a few days, but I almost didn't recognize her. The woman who used to dress to the nines was now disheveled, her face smeared with dirt and streaked with blood. She was running ahead, with Uncle Zhang chasing close behind, a wooden stick in hand. You useless woman, you bring in no money, you do no work, I've been too damn soft on you. What? You've gotten used to an easy life all these years. How dare you yell at me? I'll beat you to death. When my mother saw us, she clung to us desperately, as if we were her lifeline. Elias, save me. I know I was wrong, I admit it, I'm sorry, can't we just move on and make this work? Uncle Zhang stopped in his tracks, still smarting from the last beating. He didn't dare get any closer and shouted at my father from several meters away, give me 200,000, and I'll give her back to you. Give it to him, Elias, say yes. No, my mother shrieked desperately, clutching at my father's trousers. But my father merely glanced at her and shook her off. What do you think this is? A garbage dump? Don't make me laugh. Crawl back to whatever sewer you slithered out of. Hearing this, the fear welled up anew in my mother's eyes. She began to plead with me. Serafina, please beg your father to save me. I'm your real mother. I shook off her hand in disgust. I have no mother like you. After a moment's thought, I grabbed her hand again and shouted, Uncle Zhang, hurry, I've got her for you. Out of habit, she tried to hit me. But my father kicked her to the ground. You lay another finger on my daughter, I dare you. My mother suddenly began laughing and crying hysterically. You heartless monsters, all of you have no conscience. She pointed at my father and screamed, I've been with you for over a decade. How can you be so cruel? Everyone makes mistakes. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive me just this once? And you, she snarled, turning her finger on me. After everything I've done for you. This is how you repay me. You'll get what's coming to you. Mark my words. You too. She glared at Uncle Zhang. You were the one who got me into all this in the first place. When I couldn't keep up anymore, you told me to come back and marry some nice, simple man. So why are you haunting me now? It's all your fault. Every last one of you. She blamed everyone around her, yet saw no fault in herself. Finally, she threw her head back and laughed. Elias. Do you really think Serafina is your child? I'm telling you, she's a bastard. I don't even know who her father is. Ha, I froze on the spot, my laughter dying in my throat. It suddenly hit me. People used to joke when I was a kid that I looked nothing like my dad. Back then, if anyone even mentioned it, my mom would fly off the handle and tear them to shreds. 14. I don't even remember how my dad got me home that day. All I could hear in my head was my mom's words. Bastard. She's a bastard. It wasn't until my dad called my name that I finally broke down and cried. Serafina, my father held me close. You are not a bastard. You are my child, and you will always be my child. Dad, the fact that we both got a second chance at life proves we were meant to be father and daughter. My father's eyes also welled up with tears. So what if we're not related by blood? In my heart, you are my daughter, and that's all that matters. Dad, I threw myself into my father's arms. And the weight in my heart finally lifted. Even though he used to be rigid, stubborn, and distant, in this moment, he didn't reject me. Compared to my own mother, he was acting more like a parent should. All the resentment I'd held onto just melted away in that instant. That day, Uncle Zhang beat my mother badly and then ran off. I heard he never came back. Granny Huang next door told me that my uncle thought she was bad luck and wouldn't let her return to her family home. She had no choice but to stay in that rundown house to recover from her injuries. I heard they have to crawl for every basic need. I just smiled calmly upon hearing it, without a shred of pity for her. Our brief period of familial harmony didn't last long. Once her injuries healed, she came knocking again. She walked with a limp, looking even more haggard than before. She froze in the doorway, watching Dad tie my shoelaces. A few seconds later, she began to scream hysterically. "I told you she's not your real daughter. Why haven't you thrown that little bitch out yet? Get rid of her now. I'm the only one who will spend the rest of your life with you, the only one who truly loves you." When she had screamed herself hoarse, my father didn't even glance at her. He let out a cold laugh and said, "Does someone who would push their own daughter to her death deserve to talk about love? Serafina has my last name. Her household registration is with me. She is my daughter. As for you, get the hell out of my sight." Dad picked up a broom and chased her out. As she walked away, she turned her head and spat. "Pa, serves you right for being called a cuckold. Just you wait, you'll all get what's coming to you." From that day on, she came to our doorstep almost every day, hurling insults and curses. They would come up and beat me whenever they saw me alone. I was miserable, and my father was too afraid to go out to work. After much thought, my quiet father decided to spend the family's entire savings to send me to the city for school. After packing my things, I watched him pace around the house with his hands behind his back. He looked around, touching this and that, his eyes filled with reluctance. 15. My heart ached a little. "Dad, maybe we shouldn't go." "Oh, you." Noticing me behind him, he crouched down again to tidy the things. "No matter what, I'm going to send you to the city for school. I've suffered enough in this life from my lack of education. I don't want you to end up like me. It's not just because of your mother. I've heard the schools in the city are better. I want you to get a good education, see the world, and go far in life someday." He gestured with his hands, his clouded eyes shining as he looked at me. "I want my daughter to soar this high one day." Seeing me hang my head, silent and fidgeting with the hem of my clothes, he thought he had said something wrong. "Sweetie, I'm also a first-time dad. If I ever say or do something wrong, you tell me, okay? I promise I'll listen and do better." I smiled through my tears. A dad who can admit his mistakes and change is a good dad. After moving to the city, I gradually became more outgoing, freed from the days of constant fear, never knowing what might earn me a beating. My grades slowly began to improve. Every day after school, my dad would rush over from the construction site to pick me up, covered in dust and dirt from head to toe. Yet, I would still skip over to him, take his hand, and proudly introduce him to my classmates. "This is my dad." The scene I had dreamed of countless times now surrounds me every single day. My life began to fill with excitement and love. The year I got into high school, my father took me back home to pay respects to our ancestors. On the mountain, I saw that woman. When I first returned to the village, I heard people say she was despised for stealing chickens and dogs around the neighborhood. When she shamelessly insisted on going back to her parents' home, her uncle broke one of her legs and threw her into the mountains. When I saw her, she was crouched in front of a grave, eating the sour, rancid offerings, watching her wolf down the food and choke several times. My hazy memories suddenly came back into sharp focus. If she had saved me like a real mother would when I was choking, if only she had been a good mother back then, she wouldn't have ended up like this, and I wouldn't have to spend every day since trying to heal from my wretched childhood. By the time I snapped back to reality, she had already spotted us. After a few stunned seconds, she spoke, her voice choked with emotion. "Serafina, it's me, your mother. I know I was never a good mother to you, but I am still your mother. Please, won't you take me home? Everything I've ever done was for your own good. How could I have been so terribly wrong? Can't you find it in your heart to forgive me, just this once?" Hearing that, I took my father's hand and turned to leave. She broke down into hysterical sobs behind us, hand in hand with my father. I walked into the sunlight and never looked back. "You haven't done anything terribly wrong. Your only mistake was being born human." The end. Story 2. The nanny's daughter, Chloe, deliberately chose to have her wedding on the same day and at the same venue as mine. As our wedding cars pulled up facing each other, she rolled down her window and asked to swap bouquets with me. My bouquet was hand-carved by my grandfather from priceless glass-grade jade, a cherished blessing he left for my wedding day. "Sis Tara, please, I've sacrificed so much for this wedding. I just want everything to be perfect. I'll give it back as soon as I step out of the car." My heart softened and I agreed, taking that 9 yen, 9 plastic bouquet from her. Little did I expect that after getting out of the car, she refused to return my bouquet, and then, at the wedding, she threw it to the ground, shattering it into pieces. That bouquet was a keepsake from my grandfather, the only way he could be present at my wedding, yet there she stood in front of everyone, putting on a pitiful act and accusing me. Who asks for a bouquet back after it's been exchanged? "Look, Tara, I've seen these glass flowers. They're a dime a dozen on Pinduoduo, just 9 yen, 90. Here, I'll give you $10. Okay, Sister Tara, I can tolerate you making things difficult for me on a daily basis, but must you humiliate me during the most important moment of my life? I was furious, arguing endlessly with her, but she just hid behind my fiancé and brother, wiping away tears as if she were the wronged one. My fiancé, full of sympathy, pulled her close, abandoning me at the wedding venue and making me the laughingstock of our social circle. My brother accused me of being vicious, cut off my financial support, and kicked me out of the house. Chloe's husband rose to prominence after their marriage with powerful backing, and he unleashed a vicious retaliation against me in my downfall. In the dead of winter, I was brutally assaulted by the thugs he hired and met my end. Meanwhile, Chloe was pampered like a princess by the three of them. Consumed by resentment, I sank into darkness, only to open my eyes and find myself back at the wedding day. When I opened my eyes, the intense pain and cold in my body hadn't completely subsided. I couldn't help but gag and dry heave. Miss Tara, are you all right? Are you feeling unwell? The makeup artist looked at me, her eyes filled with deep concern. I looked at myself in the mirror, feeling a little dazed. The wedding dress accentuated my graceful figure, and my makeup was absolutely flawless. Miss Tara, do you see any other issues? If not, we can head out. The person picking up the bride had a wide smile in her eyes. Miss Tara was definitely the most generous bride she had ever met. Oh, and make sure you've got the bouquet. The icy touch of the jade petals in my hand sent a jolt through me. I knew it. I had been reborn. As I looked at all the festive decorations around me, a hint of sarcasm flickered in my eyes. The turning point of my life began on this very day, in my past life. I was betrothed to the eldest son of the Gu family conglomerate through an arranged childhood marriage. On the wedding day, I carried a jade-carved floral bouquet, a keepsake left by my grandfather. Last year, when my grandfather was critically ill, this was the only memento he left me. Holding on to this memory of my grandfather felt as if he were right there at my wedding. But I never expected that our housekeeper's daughter would choose the very same day to get married. And she deliberately picked the exact same route as mine. As our wedding cars passed each other, she handed me a bunch of plastic flowers that probably cost less than $10. Tara, please. I don't want my in-laws to look down on me. I've spent so much on this wedding. I just want everything to be perfect. Could we swap venues for good luck? We're at the same hotel. You take the main hall. I'll take the smaller one. I'll return your bouquet right at the entrance. Seeing the tears in Cinderella's eyes, my heart softened and I agreed. But I never imagined that once we arrived at the hotel, she'd start her wedding, laughing as she tossed my bouquet amidst the cheers. The jade flower fell and shattered into a million pieces, yet she seized the moment to laugh and wish everyone peace year after year. I was furious. I stormed onto the stage and slapped Chloe. Her eyes, however, were red-rimmed, and she was crying her heart out. Miss Tara, I can tolerate you making things difficult for me on a regular basis, but this is my wedding. There's no way I'm giving back the bouquet. These glass flowers are a dime a dozen on Pinduoduo for 9 yuan. How about I pay you 100 yuan instead? My fiancé, Cyrus, rushed onto the stage and shielded her behind him. My brother, Silas, his face ashen, walked up to me and slapped me across the face with all his might. Enough, it's just a bouquet. If you want one, I'll buy you a truckload. It's Chloe's wedding today. Why are you making a scene? I looked at him and couldn't help arguing loudly. This is my bouquet. My bouquet is made of the finest glass-grade jade. It was left to me by my grandfather, his blessing for me. What kind of blessing is this? How expensive could a bouquet possibly be? You've clearly been spoiled rotten playing the rich miss. How dare you make a scene on such an important day like a wedding? I was absolutely furious and demanded she pay for the damages on the spot, threatening to fire her. Miss Tara, please don't make me lose this job. For the sake of my mother who wore herself out caring for you all these years. Please don't fire me. She deliberately smeared my reputation, and I couldn't help but grab her and demand an explanation. Amid the scuffle, she flashed me a calculated smile. Grabbing my wedding dress, she threw herself backward. With a loud rip, a huge tear was torn in my wedding gown. Today is a momentous day for both families, with numerous media reporters present. Soon, their cameras were filled with my compromising photos. Cyrus turned livid and immediately declared the engagement off. I instantly became the laughingstock of high society. Not only are there nude photos of me online, but also a video of me pushing Chloe off the stage. The cyberbullying was overwhelming, and my mom, worried sick about me, tragically died in a plane crash on her way back from overseas. I was devastated and locked myself at home, refusing to go out. A month passed, and I noticed my body had changed drastically, until I discovered Chloe had been slipping hormone medication into my food. I only did it for your own good, sis. These are premium antidepressants. I've been so worried seeing you shut yourself indoors every day. These past few days, Silas had brought her to stay at his home. Silas even told her affectionately that this place would be her new home. She was wearing the evening gown my mom had custom made for me, adorned with the jewelry my mom had bid a fortune on for me, and parading around in high society. I screamed at her to get out. But Silas slapped me to the ground. Look at the state of you. You're like a pig. These clothes would be a joke on you. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Chloe looks so much better in them than you do. Silas looked at me, his face filled with disgust. Chloe has really made a name for herself these past few days, taking your place. I now consider Chloe my sister. She's also a young lady of the Shin family. Not only that, but Cyrus, my former fiancé, has fallen in love with her. Becoming her loyal protector, Chloe's husband Felix also entered high society through her connections, and later met a powerful benefactor that propelled his rapid rise. 3 men doted on Chloe to the point of absolute devotion, until her birthday, when she set me up to push her down the stairs while she was pregnant. The 3 of them grew to utterly despise me. Silas kicked me out of the house and froze all my cards. Cyrus had my limbs broken by hired thugs, while Felix sent a gang of hoodlums to torment me day and night. I drew my last breath filled with resentment, while Chloe became the darling of the 3 men, living like a princess in their wealthy world. When I opened my eyes again, a shadow of ambiguity flickered in my gaze as I stared at the bouquet in my hands. Is the bride ready? We're about to leave. Wait, I called out to the wedding escort and whispered a few words into her ear. Miss Tara, you're not serious, are you? The bridesmaid looked at me in disbelief. As the notification of the transfer sounded, the bridesmaid's expression immediately changed, replaced by a bright smile. I'll get right on it. I gazed at the scenery outside, lost in deep thought. Everyone wondered why I chose such an out-of-the-way path. Only I knew I was trying to avoid the tragedies of my past life. But before we'd even made it halfway, we ran into a wedding procession coming the other way. The car windows slowly rolled down, and Chloe's face appeared from inside. Tara, what a coincidence. Our weddings are on the same day, and we just happened to take the same route. I heard that when brides meet, they exchange bouquets. I made this myself. Isn't it pretty? Sister Tara, shall we exchange? She held the plastic flower from her previous life, waiting expectantly for my reply. I looked at her, a flicker of complexity in my eyes. I'd already diverged from my past life's path. So how is it possible I still ran into Chloe? I shook my head firmly. My bridal bouquet isn't right for you. Let's not do this. I'm now certain that meeting Chloe in my past life was absolutely no coincidence. Sis Tara, I don't want my in-laws to look down on me. Exchanging bouquets at weddings is tradition. It's for good luck. Chloe stared at me relentlessly, her eyes red-rimmed. Sister Tara, at worst, I'll give it back to you after I get off the car. I still shook my head. I told you. My bouquet isn't right for you. Chloe, you should really leave soon. Don't miss the auspicious time. I looked at her and said coldly. Chloe gritted her teeth, a shadow of ambiguity flickering in her eyes. She feigned a choked voice. Tara, my photographer is live streaming right now. Could you do me a favor? I paused for a moment, pulled out my phone, and sure enough, Chloe's live stream was packed with viewers. Some people even recognized me. Isn't that Miss Tara? What's going on? The Shin family is so petty. It's just a bouquet of flowers. Exactly. The girl just wanted some good luck. The streamer spent ages making that bouquet live yesterday. The Shin family can't be that petty, can they? I heard Miss Tara changed her route at the last minute, which is why she ended up marrying into the wrong family. Such a spoiled and willful young lady, isn't she? I looked at Chloe, my eyes cold. Now I can be 100% certain that, no matter in this life or the last, she has always deliberately followed me. Sister Tara, I've been preparing for this wedding for so long. I just want it to be perfect. Please, can you help me out? They say if brides don't exchange bouquets after accidentally wearing similar dresses, it brings bad luck. I never expected you'd change your route last minute. Tara, I know my bouquet might not meet your standards, but I put my heart into making it for so long. I just want us both to be happy. Are you looking down on me? Tara, this is my sincere gesture. Must everything be measured by money? Chloe lingered, unwilling to leave. The condemnation in the live stream grew louder, fueled by someone's deliberate guidance. I knew this was all her doing. The more infamous I became, the more pleased she was. She really went to great lengths to ruin my reputation on my wedding day. I sighed helplessly. All right, if you're so set on changing the bouquet, then take it. With a smile, I handed her the flowers. You don't have to return them. They're yours to keep. Chloe smiled, ready to accept them, but the moment her eyes landed on the bouquet, her face went stark white. How could this be? Sister Tara, are you kidding me? Staring at the yellow and white chrysanthemum bouquet in her hands, Chloe's face cycled from pale to green. I looked at her, a smile playing in my eyes. I just finished paying my respects to my grandfather and my father. They can't be at my wedding, so this is the only way I can tell them. I specifically went to the cemetery to tell them I'm getting married today, to bring peace to their souls in heaven. That's why this is my bouquet, this way. They'll be able to see it. I didn't think this road would lead to a wedding procession, but Miss Chloe's planning is certainly unique, routing the bridal party through the cemetery. It was then that everyone realized something was off. Oh right, Tara's maternal grandfather, old Mr. Shin, had indeed passed away last year. Old Mr. Shin was a renowned artist in the country, and everyone mourned the loss of such a master. As for the Shin family's son-in-law, he was in a car accident right after Tara was born. Public opinion has completely shifted. Indeed, isn't Miss Chloe rather peculiar? Miss Tara's procession is quiet and respectful, while Miss Chloe's is making a racket with firecrackers and music, utterly disregarding the peace of the deceased. The more you think about it, the more unsettling it becomes. It's truly bizarre. I heard Miss Chloe's mother used to work for the Shin family. Could it be that Miss Chloe is deliberately following her boss? Ha ha ha, like a dowry maid? Chloe's face turned pale as she watched the comments. You can take the bouquet. Don't let me hold you back from your own happiness. With a beaming smile, I looked at Chloe and handed her the bouquet of chrysanthemums. Chloe's smile was forced, and she hesitated to take them. Someone in the live stream noticed something was off. What's going on with Miss Chloe? She was so insistent on swapping flowers with someone else just now, and wouldn't listen to Miss Tara's advice. Now she's suddenly changed her mind. I've heard some brides intentionally prepare cheap bouquets to swap for more expensive ones on their wedding day. Remember when Miss Young got married, her golden bouquet was swapped. The Shin family is so wealthy. Could Miss Chloe be trying to get something for free? Seeing everyone's whispers gradually expose her intentions, she had no choice but to reluctantly exchange with me. But I underestimated the shamelessness of Chloe and her crew. When I walked into the wedding venue I'd spent a fortune meticulously decorating, I found it had already been taken over. The wedding stage was littered with confetti. Chloe's wedding had apparently started early and was already at the bouquet toss. A dark glint flashed in my eyes as I looked at Silas beside me. Silas's eyes flickered with guilt when he noticed me looking at him. He looked at Chloe with a complex mix of emotions and reluctance, then cleared his throat. Chloe grew up with us. She's practically my half-sister. Auntie's gotten old and moved back home. Chloe's all alone, and we can't just let her get picked on, can we? We need to have her back. You can just go up after she's done. With that, he smiled at Chloe on stage and gestured for the bridesmaids to bring the bouquet over. A sudden jolt ran through me at the sight of the bouquet in the bridesmaid's hand. The bouquet of jade flowers that the bridesmaid Chloe is holding is exactly mine. I stood there stunned as Chloe looked at me triumphantly and said, "No, I'd like to offer my blessings to everyone." With that, she tossed the exquisite jade flower behind her. The delicate jade shattered into pieces in an instant. My face darkened, and I couldn't help but rush onto the stage. I slapped Chloe to the ground right in front of all the media. Just like in my past life, all the spotlights instantly turned to me, too. Sure enough, Silas. And Felix immediately went on stage to shield Chloe. Silas tried to hit me, but I deftly dodged him. He actually lost his balance and started toppling off the stage, so I gave him a final kick to send him flying down. Good thing I changed into flats in the car earlier. I looked at the stunned Chloe with a faint, mocking smile. "Do you have any idea what it is that you just shattered?" "It's just a bunch of glass flowers," I nodded. Chloe's eyes welled up as she looked at me with feigned grievance. "Well, you can get tons of them for just 9 yuan on Pinduoduo. Fine, if you like them that much, I'll order you a whole truckload." Silas scowled from the audience. "Get out of here now. You're making a scene. After all, it's Tara's birthday today. No matter how upset he is, he wouldn't dare make a scene in public. Tara, if you keep giving Chloe a hard time, I don't see this wedding happening." Cyrus looked at me with nothing but threat in his eyes, but when his gaze shifted to Chloe, it was replaced with tenderness. "Chloe isn't like you. She's been through a lot to get where she is today. Fine then, let's call off this engagement. We only had the wedding ceremony anyway, never actually registered the marriage. You refusing to register our marriage makes me think there's someone else, isn't there? Perfect timing. I'll leave you two to it today. What matters most is that the three of you make a good life together." I looked at him, a hint of sarcasm in my eyes. I must have been blind in my past life to fall for such a piece of trash. You rich people can have so many things so easily, but do you know how much Chloe sacrificed for this wedding? We'll pay for the flowers. Here, take $100. Keep the change. Felix stepped forward, righteously denouncing me. Seeing how shameless they were, I was so angry I started to laugh. Hey, do you really think this is just a glass flower? Not to mention, the material is top-grade imperial jadeite, and it was carved by my grandfather, Julian, one of the country's foremost masters. It's worth well over 100 million. The crowd gasped in astonishment, and of course, Eldershin and the others knew. Felix's face instantly turned pale. What nonsense are you spouting? Enough. Stop making a scene. Let's discuss this matter privately. Silas, seeing the situation turning sour, tried to pull me off the stage. I sidestepped once more and spoke with deliberate calm. There's no need for compensation. The four stood frozen in place, thrown off by my sudden change of tone. They couldn't fathom my intentions and were at a complete loss for words. This jade floral arrangement has been sold to the Jing City Museum for 100 million yuan. With all proceeds to be donated by the museum to support children in mountainous regions. We've just completed all the paperwork. I'm not the one you should be compensating. I looked at a pale Chloe, feeling utterly righteous. Chloe, I remember you came from the mountains, didn't you? Your aunt was struggling to make ends meet back then, and my mom took you both in, offered your aunt a job as our housekeeper, and supported you to get where you are today, as you know. There are so many children who need our help. You can't forget where you came from. Just because you got rained on doesn't mean you should tear down someone else's umbrella because of your vanity, your willfulness, your ignorance. How many children have lost their shelter, lost their chance to go to school? The media was utterly shocked. This was huge news today, so you want to pay up, huh? I looked at Felix, who was shrinking like a frightened quail, my eyes filled with heavy sarcasm. You just throw out 100 million like it's nothing. Felix stiffened his neck and glared at me. Before he could finish, Curator Patrick came in with a group of people. My dear, on behalf of the Jing City Museum, I want to thank you. Don't worry, we will absolutely fulfill our promise of sponsorship. And here I am, with Leonard in tow. Silas's vision went black. Not only had the curator arrived, but also several figures from the political sphere. Looking at the shattered pieces scattered across the floor, Curator Patrick suddenly fell silent. Darling, are these fragments made of glass-grade jadeite? What about the jade flower? He looked at me, confirming with disbelief in his voice. I nodded. The media team should have the video footage archived. Silas wants to sweep this under the rug. No way. Chloe watched Silas and Cyrus, her face etched with despair. This flower is really worth 100 million. We couldn't afford it even if we sold her. Fine, we'll pay. Silas and Cyrus gritted their teeth and stepped forward. With so many influential figures present, dragging this out further wouldn't benefit anyone. What are you going to compensate for? This is priceless. The girl selling it to us for 100 million is already a kindness. Do you even realize what a terrible mistake you've made? Curator Patrick and Leonard, having understood the whole story, looked at the four people in front of them as if they wanted to devour them whole. Grandpa Patrick, Grandpa Leonard, please don't be angry. Mom and I have discussed it, and we'll be donating all of Grandpa's works to the museum free of charge after the wedding. It's just a shame about this jadeite flower. Darling, are you serious? I nodded. In my past life, Cyrus had shattered these heirlooms from my grandfather just to amuse Chloe. I desperately tried to pick them up, but Chloe stomped my hand into the shards. This time around, my grandfather's creations deserved to be cherished and preserved. The four of them breathed a sigh of relief, but I walked up to them and smirked. The elders are kind-hearted. They might not hold you accountable. However, you still owe the curator and the others that 100 million. Cyrus and Silas could only grit their teeth and write out the check. I smiled and nodded at them. Thank you, Mr. Shin and Mr. Cyrus, for your generous donation. On behalf of the children in the mountains, I thank you. The guests present began to whisper amongst themselves. Miss Tara truly has a kind heart. That nanny's daughter is disgusting, biting the hand that feeds her. It's really strange. When something happened, Chloe didn't hide behind her own husband, but ran behind someone else's groom. If you ask me, if there's nothing going on between those two, I'll live stream myself eating crap. The guests present also cast admiring glances my way. A dark glint flashed in my eyes. My objective had been achieved. Silas and Cyrus will provide the money. I'll earn the reputation. As soon as the wedding farce was over, I returned to the company. In this life, all I want is to reclaim everything that's mine. What I didn't expect, though, was to be stopped by Silas's assistant outside. Today, Mr. Shin is introducing Miss Tara to the shareholders. Unauthorized personnel are not permitted inside. How come I wasn't informed about this arrangement? I frowned. I am Shin. Good morning, Miss Tara. Immediately, the assistant flashed an ingratiating smile toward someone behind me. I turned and saw Chloe behind me. Her expression instantly changed when she saw me. Miss Tara. I looked at the assistant with amusement, then glanced around at the people in the office. Just as I expected, everyone in the company had been replaced. Most of the shareholders have arrived. Would you like to take a look at the refreshments? Chloe, feigning composure, walked past me and pointed at me, saying with displeasure, serve these as planned. And by the way, who let unauthorized personnel in? Don't they know it's a shareholders meeting today? Miss Tara, I'll have her thrown out immediately. The assistant immediately bowed and scraped. I looked at the assistant before me and said, if you don't want to get fired, you'd better not listen to her. I demand to see Silas. The assistant listened to me, a hint of mockery flashing in her eyes. Who do you think you are? Miss Tara is Mr. Shin's most beloved sister. Leave now, or you'll regret it. Chloe looked up from her phone and spoke abruptly. The admin department just reported a missing file from the first floor archive. You did it, didn't you? I saw you lurking around Mr. Shin this morning, probably trying to steal something. Hand it over now. I didn't take it. I looked at her, a cold glint in my eyes. A few female staff members immediately understood and slapped me across the face. Before I could even speak, they grabbed my hair, and I felt a searing pain in my scalp. If Miss Tara says you took it, then you took it. Of all the places to cause trouble, you just had to pick this one. Several of Mr. Shin's mistresses acted just as arrogantly before, and we dealt with every single one of them. Who do you think you are, daring to fire me? Just so you know, I'm going to be the future Mrs. Shin. As she spoke, she aimed for my stomach and kicked me again and again. You want to climb the ranks? I'm telling you, no way. I tasted something salty and metallic in my mouth, and a mouthful of bloody spittle landed on her foot. She shrieked. That's my new C-brand limited edition, bitch. Clean this up for me. As she said that, she tried to shove her shoe towards my mouth. What are you doing? Silas's voice rang out. He looked at me, a flicker of something complex in his eyes. The assistant immediately played the victim. Mr. Shin, this guy snuck in to steal documents. Thanks to Ms. Tara, she caught him. I pushed myself up from the ground, wiped the blood from my face, and looked at the guilty-looking Silas in front of me, my voice sharp. Silas. How come I didn't know the Shin family had another daughter? You wait right there. Mom's already on a flight back home. You better clean up these blind animals right now. I looked at the pale female employees, a cold glint in my eyes. And I told you, you'd better not listen to her. The female assistant cowered to the side, her eyes filled with hatred as she looked at Chloe. I ignored them, straightened my clothes, and walked into the conference room. There were more important things to deal with. Silas followed behind me, a shadow of something unreadable flickering in his eyes. In this lifetime, I deliberately had my mother change our flight. Several shareholders looked at Silas, their eyes filled with doubt. I was just about to speak when the butler rushed in, flustered and panicked. Miss, something's wrong. Madam's flight. There's been an accident. The moment the words left her lips, my mind exploded. Silas walked out. A knowing smile on his face. It suddenly hit me. Is that you? Silas didn't answer, but hearing the news, several shareholders suddenly felt a sense of direction. All right, Tara, you've made your point. Now go home. This isn't the place for you to act out. As he spoke, Silas pulled Chloe forward from behind him. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Chloe. She's my parents' adopted daughter, and also the young lady of the Shin family. I'm sure you've all witnessed Chloe's capabilities these past few days. Tara has been spoiled rotten at home. I believe Chloe is far more suited to take over the company than she is. The shareholders exchanged glances and immediately grasped Silas's implication. This is a power grab. Miss Chloe is truly exceptional. We owe the success of securing General Manager Yang's deal the other day entirely to Miss Chloe. For the company's growth, Tara, it's not that Uncle is playing favorites, but it would be good for you to enjoy life at home. Some immediately started to declare their allegiance, jumping on the bandwagon. Tara, if you give up your shares, you can continue to be Miss Tara, Silas threatened. I looked at him, my eyes icy cold. What if I say no? Then get out of the Shin family. I think the one who should get out of the Shin family is you. A sharp female voice cut through the air. Silas's face instantly went pale, and he stared in disbelief at something behind me. How is this possible? How can you still be alive? Mom, I affectionately threw myself into the woman's arms. My dear daughter, you've been through so much these past few days. My mom stroked my head, her eyes full of tender affection. No way. Didn't something happen to your flight? Oh, you mean the flight? I never even got on that plane. You actually managed to bribe my assistant. Silas, your ambition knows no bounds. If I hadn't returned, I wouldn't have known where you and your illegitimate sister drove my daughter off to. Hiring a hitman is a crime. Silas, you've got some nerve. You have no evidence. How dare you slander me? A flash of ruthlessness crossed Silas's eyes. So what if we know? There's no proof, no witnesses. What can we do to him? A cold glint flashed in my mother's eyes. Did they really think she was dead? Silas, the Shin family isn't the Shin in your Silas, technically. We're not related by blood at all. You have no inheritance rights here with me. Your dad died young, and I felt sorry for you. Plus, I wanted someone to look after Tara, but I never imagined that our Shin family would end up raising such an ungrateful wretch. 5. It was only after I died in my previous life that I learned Silas wasn't my biological brother at all. He was Chloe's biological brother, back then. Father should never truly cut ties with his ex-wife to give me a complete family. My mother kept this past from me. Fine, take your sister and get out of the Shin family. Mom, are you really kicking me out? The Shin group's success today is all thanks to my core team. My Shin family doesn't lack these things. From now on, you have absolutely nothing to do with us. Get out of my sight. Fine, just don't regret it. Chloe, let's go. Silas shot me a hateful glare, then turned and left. Sweetheart, Mommy's here. You won't suffer any more injustice in this life. My mom looked at me lovingly, reassuring me. I looked at my mom, a flicker of shock in my eyes. Mom, Tara, I'm so sorry. Mommy's late. Mommy sees everything you do. Wiping away my tears, I realized Mom had been there all along. Mom, this time, I'm going to make them pay. My mom nodded. I really misjudged the Gu family. I can't believe Cyrus dared to treat you like that at the wedding. They have to pay for this. I nodded. This Phoenix man had to pay. Inside the Gu family home. Mrs. Gu looked at our imposing group, her eyes filled with an ingratiating plea. Mr. Shin, it's just a misunderstanding between children having a spat. I've already disciplined Cyrus. Mom, what misunderstanding? I just can't stand Tara throwing her weight around. Chloe is 10 times better than her. I'm not marrying her. Cyrus rushed out, pointing his finger at my nose and yelling, You unfilial son. Drag him away and lock him in the ancestral hall. No one is to release him without my command. Cyrus's father's temples were throbbing with rage. Listen, dear, this engagement was arranged by your family's patriarch back then. I'll make sure to give you a proper explanation. No need. From now on, our families should go our separate ways. I just found out your Cyrus wouldn't even get a marriage certificate with Tara. Well, that saves us all a great deal of trouble. I'll be withdrawing my investment from Cyrus's company then. It's getting late, so we won't stay and bother your family during dinner, Mr. Shin. About this, Mrs. Gu still wanted to salvage the situation, but my mom's icy glare stopped her. No need to see us out. With that, she pulled me away. You ungrateful wretch, you absolute disgrace. Cyrus's father slammed his teacup onto the floor. Look at the fine son you've raised. He's offended the Shin family. He's practically ruined now. He had always disliked Cyrus. Originally, Cyrus could have used his looks to curry favor with Miss Shin, utterly useless now. And he even had to compensate Mr. Shin for significant losses. Doesn't he know that Shin Group is the largest shareholder of Gu Corporation? Fortunately, he's never short of sons. If this one's a failure, there's always the next. Dylan, that's your son. Are you trying to put that little vixen in power? I'm telling you, not in this lifetime. You're insane. Watching the hysterical Mrs. Gu, who seemed a completely different person from moments ago, Cyrus's father shoved her to the ground in frustration and walked away without looking back. You jinx, this is all your fault. With no other outlet for her rage, Mrs. Gu hurled the broken shards in her hand at her daughter Wendy's head. Blood trickled down from Wendy's forehead, and a storm of darkness flashed in her eyes. Get lost. She kicked Wendy away. If it weren't for giving birth to her, she wouldn't have aged so rapidly, losing her looks and, consequently, her husband's affection. Wendy stood there like a mannequin, letting Mrs. Gu hit and scold her. Only after Mrs. Gu tired herself out with the abuse and returned to her room did Wendy take out her phone and dial a number. After a long moment of hesitation, she said, I'm willing to cooperate. I chuckled and set the phone down. Why the big smile? My mom asked curiously while driving. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Mom, it's time for the Gu family to pay back what they took, with interest. After leaving the Shin family, Silas swiftly withdrew all his assets from the Shin conglomerate. Together with Cyrus and Chloe's husband Felix, he founded a new company. Both Silas and Cyrus were feeling the financial pinch after losing 100 million, so they were rather short with Felix, who hadn't contributed any capital. Over the years, he did manage to poach some core technologies while at the Shin Group. These technologies brought him considerable profit, allowing him to quickly establish himself. Silas couldn't help but feel a little full of himself. He is confident he can surpass the Shin family's status. I smiled as I poured tea into my mother's and Wendy's cups. The prey has taken the bait. To truly break someone, first raise them up high. Only from great heights can a fall be fatal. I've already had someone leak the news that the Shin family's cash flow is stretched thin. My mother looked at me with approval. I got hold of the Gu family's account books and discovered that Cyrus actually diverted the Gu family's assets. I think once my father finds out, he'll completely disown him. Dylan never imagined in his life that his own son would be the one to completely push him into the abyss. I'm sure those three will try to snatch this land from us for development, but as it stands, Silas doesn't have nearly enough capital, and their biggest partner is the Chin Group. Don't worry, the Chin Group won't be working with them. Why? Wendy looked at me, her eyes filled with deep confusion. The CEO of the Chin Group is Director Patrick's grandson. In Director Patrick's eyes, these four are utterly shameless and heartless. This piece of land. We must drive up the price and bleed them dry. Sure enough, Silas and his crew got a cold shoulder at the auction. Looks like Patrick had already put in a word. When the three of us walked in, they scoffed, and when the last plot of land came up, their eyes gleamed with determination. My mom and I trembled as we put down our bidding paddles. Seeing us like that, the three men couldn't hide their smug satisfaction. As the gavel fell, Silas walked over and looked down at us. Mom, I told you you'd regret this. Tara is utterly useless. See, you can't even hold the bidding paddle steady. Little did Silas know. My mom was trembling from holding back laughter. After all, this land would soon yield an ancient tomb, handed over without compensation. Sure enough, in less than 2 months, their land was confiscated. All three lost their entire life savings in an instant. You guys are just too amazing. Wendy couldn't help but exclaim. I smiled. Everyone thought this was a golden opportunity. Only my mom and I, having been reborn, knew the real secret behind it. Silas was completely out of the game this time. Cyrus panicked, wanting to return to the Goo family. However, Wendy had already handed over the evidence of him transferring Goo Corporation's assets to Dylan. Dylan was so enraged that he suffered a stroke, leaving him paralyzed and bedridden. With Goo Corporation's capital chain broken, Dylan had no choice but to sell off its shares. Wendy, on the other hand, collaborated with us to indirectly acquire Goo's shares at a low price, quietly absorbing Goo's into her own. As for Cyrus, he was completely abandoned by the Goo family, becoming a homeless stray. Silas, relying on the core technology he still possessed, tried to put up a strong resistance, but he couldn't withstand Felix's betrayal. Felix had enough of his bossy attitude these days, so he secretly leaked Silas's core technology to the competition. Silas completely lost his leverage. It's about time to reel it in, I said with a smile. Finishing my tea, the group of four quickly fell apart, and a homeless Cyrus turned to alcoholism and gambling. Having grown accustomed to a lavish lifestyle, Chloe naturally refused to endure hardship. Since Cyrus was the only one with money, the two became entangled. Felix couldn't bear the humiliation of betrayal. In his eyes, these people were the reason he lost everything. He originally held a stable job at a state-owned enterprise and enjoyed a comfortable middle-class life. Not only did these people ruin their own stable lives, but they also betrayed themselves. He grabbed a fruit knife, burst into the room, and stabbed the two naked individuals to death. Meanwhile, Silas learned from a rival that Felix had sold him out. Furious, he returned home and, upon seeing the deranged Felix, his anger boiled over, without a second thought. He grabbed the nail-studded plank by the door and, with red-rimmed eyes, slammed it into Felix's head again and again. Even after Felix's head was split open, his rage remained unquenched. By the time the police arrived, all they found was Silas, weeping hysterically in a pool of blood. My mother and I stood among the crowd, watching the police car drive away. In each other's eyes, we saw the release of past life burdens. The shadows of our past lives have finally lifted, a decade later. Chin Corporation became the industry leader under mine and my mother's guidance. During this time, my mother and I sponsored numerous children. Some graduates have gone on to shine in various fields, making valuable contributions to public service. Others joined the Chin Group, returning the kindness they received. As I concluded my speech as a representative figure of Beijing, a bouquet was handed to me from the audience. She is a female university student from a rural area I sponsored this year. She looked at me shyly as I took it from her expectant gaze, smiling as I thanked her. The bouquet before me, glistening with dewdrops and fragrance, shimmered with the most beautiful light under the sun. Story 2. My elder sister snatched my dress and shamelessly paraded in it. She looked down her nose at me, sneering. A country-born bastard like you doesn't deserve such finery. That exquisite crimson gown won her the crown prince's favor. Little did she know, the red dress was stitched from human skin. When the corpse's skin craves blood and its venom seeps into my bones, that shall be my day of shedding this flesh. My elder sister came with her entourage to blockade my courtyard. Pinned down by 2 brawny maidservants, I watched helplessly as my chambermaid, unearthed the pomegranate red skirt I'd hidden at the bottom of my chest. The fawning maid presented the garment to the woman lounging on the chaise longue. Young mistress, this is the one. My elder sister's previously indifferent eyes lit up at the sight of the exquisite dress. Who would have thought a country bumpkin like you could possess such fine things? Year bowed even lower. This servant saw her retrieve this dress from her trunk when no one was around. How could a newly returned illegitimate daughter from the countryside own such finely crafted garments? She must have stolen them from somewhere. I struggled desperately to explain. I didn't steal it. My grandmother stitched this for me with her own hands. Breaking free from the maids restraining me, I dropped to my knees and began kowtowing. Blow after blow, beads of blood oozed from my forehead. This is the last thing grandmother left me. I beg you, sister, show mercy. I paused. Then said through gritted teeth, had it been anything else, sister, Vivian wouldn't have denied you. Seraphina's face darkened instantly as she snatched the teacup beside her and hurled it at me. The teacup shattered half a meter away from me, scalding liquid splashing across half my face. You wretch, are you implying that I, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household, would covet some trinket of a mere concubine-born girl? Her fury grew with each word. Malice twisting her features, after catching her breath, she finally raised her eyes to examine the crimson dress. Mesmerized, she murmured, "This is truly exquisite." I stared at her blankly, bowing my head even lower. Sister, this is Vivian's only keepsake. She shot me a venomous glance before reluctantly setting the dress down. Her gaze swept over me with disdain. Just a country-born bastard girl. What a waste of such fine garments on someone like you. Your nanny does have some skill. Even the capital's finest seamstresses couldn't produce work this exquisite. Had my servants not informed me, I'd never have known you possessed such treasures. With sudden amusement, she tilted her head. Since you value these so dearly, I simply must deny you the pleasure of keeping them. As she left, Seraphina ordered her attendants to ransack every corner of my chamber. The chaos in the room made it clear she was trying to put me in my place. She preened with smug satisfaction. Thinking she'd crushed me completely, unaware this entire scene was my design. That blood-stained shroud of human skin was always meant for her, my elder sister Seraphina, the Chancellor's sole legitimate daughter, bloomed with radiant beauty like spring itself, one of the capital's most celebrated jewels. Before I was acknowledged by the Prime Minister's household, she was the sole daughter of this noble house. The First Lady cherished her like the apple of her eye, raising her in such privilege that she grew up fearless and unconstrained. Unlike my noble-born half-sister, I was merely the child of the lowest-ranking maid in the household. One night, my father took advantage of his drunken state to bed a maid from the First Lady's quarters. It wasn't until the maid started showing her pregnancy that the first wife finally pieced together what had happened. Having borne my father only one legitimate daughter in 10 years of marriage, she was obsessively sensitive about heirs, and absolutely livid that my mother had seduced him right under her nose. In her rage, she immediately tried to have my mother beaten to death. My grandmother arrived just in time to intervene and save her. She silenced the first madam by citing the Chancellor's lack of heirs, then took my mother under her wing for the pregnancy. But knowing the first madam's noble lineage required appeasement, she privately promised any male heir would be registered under the first madam's name. My mother brought me into this world through fear and anguish. The matriarch took one look and flew into a rage, abandoning my mother to the first madam's mercy, while my heartless chancellor father denied all responsibility the moment he'd fastened his trousers. The first wife, consumed by long-held resentment, took my mother to the estate, forced her to drink a potion that stole her voice, then beat her to death with clubs. My mother whimpered in agony, drawing her last breath filled with bitterness and hatred. The first wife discarded her corpse in a mass grave, leaving it to be devoured by wild dogs. Seeing me still swaddled in infancy, she uncharacteristically showed mercy and spared my life. Though still a child, Seraphina yanked the hairpin from her temple and viciously slashed my face, not stopping until I was drenched in blood. Since mother despises you both, I'll ruin this wretched face on her behalf. After disfiguring me, the first wife ordered the servants to dump me in the wilderness without a second thought. As you're the Chancellor's blood, I'll spare your life. Let the King of Hell decide your fate. I lived up to her expectations. Not only did I survive, but I mastered the art of disguise. When Granny found me, I was barely breathing, my wounds crusted with dried blood. She poured her heart into nursing me back to life. For the next 15 years, Granny treated me as her own granddaughter and even taught me her skin crafting art. Granny was the most renowned skin artisan in the mountains, yet she never crafted skins for the living, only for mountain spirits who wished to walk among humans. Spirits wearing her crafted skins could maintain them with their spiritual power, perfectly concealing their demonic aura. Granny often said, "Mountain spirits are gentle by nature, with a human disguise. They can walk among men to earn their keep, but human hearts are fickle. Wearing such skins may bring calamity." My skills were lacking. I only mastered the crudest form of corpse skin craft. Even when exasperated, Granny would just sigh, "Very well, a corpse skin will do. At least you'll pass for an ordinary girl and avoid scornful glances." Granny often took me wandering through woodland burial pits, We'd flay skins from executed criminals, treat them with secret methods, then wear them as our own. When I draped this death mask over my hideous face, I looked no different from any ordinary woman. With some luck, I might even find a corpse with delicate features, but these flesh masks inevitably rot. Their preservation is fleeting. Finding a truly exquisite death mask is even rarer, so when no suitable corpse is found, I roam these mountains wearing my own disfigured visage. The forest spirits often mocked me. Granny Lou, where did you dig up this ugly brat? After a lifetime of crafting beautiful skins, you end up with such a plain-looking girl as your granddaughter. Granny paid no heed, smiling as she stroked my head. Never mind, child, I'll craft you a new skin in time. On my coming-of-age day, Granny poured all her knowledge into making me a bloodied skin garment. It was fashioned from the flayed hide of a mother-child vengeful spirit. The old woman went to great lengths to avenge the wrongful death of a beautiful pregnant woman, appeasing her vengeful spirit before obtaining this rare corpse hide. When crafted into a blood garment, this hide becomes the finest relic for preserving one's beauty. She commissioned the 8-legged spider spirits of the forest to weave my gown, embedding the corpse hide within its fabric. Daily, I nourish it with a drop of blood from my fingertip, awakening the garment's sentience until it recognizes only me as its master. The blood-stained robe hungers for flesh. Once the corpse poison seeps into the bones, it strips the wearer's skin clean off. For my own use, unlike ordinary corpse skin, living human hide brims with vitality, never decaying nor rotting. With this prize, I'll never need to laboriously flay dead bodies again. Granny warned me sternly. This garment must never be used to take lives, only as a last resort when all hope is lost. The moment she passed the bloodied robe to me, her last breath left her on the deathbed. Before her death, she handed me the embroidered pouch that held the proof of my origins. Within 3 days of leaving the mountain, I'd pieced together most of what happened that year. The debt of my mother's murder and my disfigurement must be repaid. When I collapsed at the Chancellor's gate, my new face bloodied, still clutching that pouch, even my cold-hearted father recognized me with tearful eyes. My face possessed an otherworldly allure that outshone my legitimate sister by far. My father had always sought to expand the Chancellor's influence through marital alliances, and now with another beautiful daughter, he gained an additional bargaining chip. The First Madame's eyes betrayed a flicker of fear when she saw me. With a few carefully chosen words, I glossed over the matter of my restored beauty, under my father's authority. Even the principal wife dared not press the matter further, swallowing her resentment in silence. But my elder sister, still young and impulsive, couldn't conceal the burning envy in her eyes when she saw my face. Little did they know I'd traded 10 wicked hearts to that seductive demon for this flawless skin. As for that ghastly flesh garment, nothing nourishes it better than the blood and flesh of sinners. Though Seraphina's nature was vicious, her beauty was truly peerless. Her face was genuinely captivating to me. 3 days later, Seraphina attended the royal court wearing the dress she'd snatched from me. With just a touch of makeup today, she outshone all the noble ladies around her. Her face was pearly white with a delicate rosy flush, looking even more enchanting than usual. I trailed behind her with my head lowered, watching the faint deathly aura emanating from her. I felt a perverse thrill. It meant the corpse skin had taken root and begun feeding on her flesh. My father and the first wife attached great importance to this banquet. My elder sister is merely 2 years my senior, long past the age for marriage arrangements. At the court banquet sat only scions of noble houses. Father intends to betroth Seraphina to the second son of the Marquis General's household. The Marquis' eldest son, not yet 25, had already distinguished himself in military campaigns with a brilliant future ahead. Alas, he'd been betrothed 3 years prior, thwarting father's plans and forcing him to settle for the second son. An alliance with the Marquis house would secure our ministerial family's enduring influence. The second son rarely makes public appearances. He was born with an illness, and before his first birthday, physicians had declared he wouldn't live to see his coming-of-age ceremony. Now that he's turned 20 with rumors of his health improving, even attending today's court celebrations, my father has set his sights on him. With the first wife recently confirmed pregnant, should she bear a son, this eldest sister could leverage her marriage to secure her baby brother's future. But my father got it all wrong. My proud and haughty elder sister only had eyes for the crown prince, that lofty royal scion. Seraphina held her head high, her every smile and glance captivating the noble young lords present. In the imperial garden, the crown prince initiated conversation while his gaze kept wandering over Seraphina. Seraphina, long time no see, you've blossomed into even greater beauty than before. With just a few words, he had my elder sister smiling endlessly. As their eyes met, peals of laughter rose and fell between them. Behind the rockery, the crown princess stared fixedly at the scene, her hands clutching her skirts beneath the folds of her dress. Her maid couldn't help but curse. What a shameless vixen, how dare she set her sights on his highness. As she moved to defend the crown princess, The maid's words died on her lips. The crown princess shook her head at her before leaving in desolation. The entire capital knew of the enmity between the crown princess and Serafina. From childhood, Serafina had set her heart on the crown prince, even fantasizing about becoming his consort, a notion the household servants eagerly flattered when the emperor announced the prince's betrothal. Serafina shattered every breakable object in the manor and vented her rage on the maids. Leaving their faces scarred, the crown princess came from a military lineage. Her father and brother were celebrated generals whose exploits turned to tragedy when both fell in battle 5 years prior, leaving only her and a younger brother under 10 in the vast estate. Racked with guilt toward the Su family and with their heir too young to inherit, the emperor decreed their sole daughter's marriage to the crown prince, preserving the family's status while honoring their loyalty. On the eve of the crown princess's wedding into the eastern palace, Serafina persuaded a friendly princess to invite her for a lakeside excursion. Feigning warmth, she lulled the unsuspecting crown princess into lowering her guard. When their boat reached the lake center, Serafina's demeanor shifted abruptly as she pushed the princess overboard. Rescued moments later, the crown princess emerged shivering violently, her pallid face bearing witness to the swallowed lake water and bitter cold. Serafina sneered with her coterie of noble ladies. Wasn't the crown princess born into a military family? How come she's so frail? The crown princess leaned weakly into the crown prince's arms like a startled bird, murmuring, "It was my own carelessness, nothing to do with Lady Shen, with the Su family's declining influence." She had no choice but to endure. After that drowning incident, the crown princess fell gravely ill and took a long convalescence to recover. To this day, she has never conceived. The imperial physician claimed her infertility stemmed from cold energy entering her body during a drowning incident 5 years prior, damaging her constitution, a diagnosis that bred enmity between them. As I watched the commotion, a frail male voice whispered by my ear. Before me stood a pale-faced man clad in white robes. "Who are you?" His dark eyes flickered with a trace of uncertainty. I turned to study him as his gaze settled on my face. If memory serves, this was Theodore, the frail second son of the general's household. He's been holed up in his estate for years, probably doesn't even know what Serafina looks like, let alone recognize an illegitimate daughter like me who's only just been acknowledged. I dipped into a graceful curtsy. "I'm the Shen family's young miss from the chancellor's household." I deliberately kept my words vague, never fully revealing my standing. Since my father intends to wed my elder sister to him, I ought to lend him a helping hand. His dark eyes flickered with a hint of interest. Even during my convalescence at the manor, I'd heard the servants speak of the prime minister's daughter, the toast of the capital. Truly, a vision of vivacious charm. The corners of his lips lifted slightly, his gaze shying away when our eyes met. I gave a slight nod and smiled at him. When leaving, he turned back 3 whole times, a faint blush coloring his previously pale cheeks. Quite an intriguing fellow. In the carriage ride back, my elder sister from the main wife berated me with haughty superiority. Stroking her crimson gown, she drawled, "Don't take it to heart, dear sister. I know you must resent me, though we're both the chancellor's daughters. The world only recognizes me as the brilliant legitimate heir." With faint concern, she placed a hand on mine and taunted, "But remember, had this dress adorned your frame, who'd notice an obscure concubine-born girl? When I rise to prominence, rest assured I'll throw you some scraps, though my grandmother warned me never to use my skills to take lives. But my elder sister was no saint. She'd perfectly inherited our father and the madam's temperament, a picture of noble grace in public, yet behind closed doors, her venomous nature surfaced, treating servants' lives as worthless." When father learned Serafina had stolen the spotlight at the banquet, he was overjoyed. The madam sipped her tea from the head seat and remarked leisurely, "As the palace banquet concluded today, the general's lady pulled me aside to inquire, judging by her manner, their untested second son surely has eyes for our daughter." With that, she drew Serafina into an embrace, her eyes brimming with pride. My father retained some reason and asked doubtfully, "Vivian was also present today?" "How can you be certain he took a liking to Serafina?" The first wife replied with a smile. "It must be Serafina. She outshone everyone at today's palace banquet." My father gave me a thoughtful glance. Seeing this, I quickly lowered my head and said, "My sister's beauty is peerless. I pale in comparison." At my words, the first madam's eyes darkened. Father merely gave a faint nod. That night, the legal wife summoned me to her chambers, seated on the daybed with undisguised contempt in her eyes. She sneered, "At least you know your place. Had I not sent someone to watch you today, who knows what mischief you might have stirred up. If you dare entertain any rebellious thoughts of surpassing your legitimate sister, I won't hesitate to ruin that pretty face of yours again." Then, she gently caressed Serafina's cheek with maternal affection. "Since Theodore only has eyes for the prime minister's daughters anyway, why not put more effort into winning him over?" Serafina's expression turned uneasy, offering little response. Upon returning, she smashed every piece of furniture in the room to splinters. I served her tea with fawning devotion, attending to her needs more attentively than her own maids. Seeing my groveling demeanor, the sternness in her expression softened slightly. Only after watching her sip the tea and seeing her anger subside did my anxious heart settle. Excessive rage would mar her complexion with fine wrinkles, in that case. This skin won't look good anymore. I still need time to nurture the skin gradually. Serafina's eyes welled up with tears. Why must father marry me off to a mere second son of a general's household? That crown princess is just a commoner by birth. She only got the position because her brother had some military merits, yet she dares to keep his highness on such a tight leash. I quickly nodded, bowing even lower. You're absolutely right, sister. That barren hen of a crown princess might have the prince's attention for now, but she'll never truly win his heart. Serafina's eyes flickered as she bit her lip. I continued my seductive whisper. Even the most beautiful face grows tiresome with time, but a warm, understanding companion by his side, that's a different story. I paused at just the right moment. She began laughing to herself, as if she'd settled on some scheme, when Serafina smiled. Her crescent eyes sparkled with enchanting beauty. I'm even more intrigued now. Wonder how I'll look wearing this disguise. Serafina learned that the crown prince accompanies his consort to Qinglian Temple north of the city for incense offerings every 15th of the month. She secretly planned to accidentally encounter the prince. Before heading out, I handed her that red dress. Sister, this gown suits you perfectly. Why not wear it today? Serafina frowned and pushed me away. Are you implying His Highness only favors me because of this dress? I feigned panic and retreated in confusion, but moments later, her expression shifted again. Her cheeks flushed crimson as she giggled and slipped her hand into mine. Vivian, I've already told Mother, you're accompanying me out today. Watching her calculating smile, the realization dawned on me, should things go south someday, she'd have no qualms about saving her own skin, pinning the whole rebellious notion's blame squarely on me. She wore a pale green dress today, adorned only with a jade hairpin. Even I couldn't help feeling a pang of protective tenderness at the sight. As I left, I glimpsed the crimson gown she'd carelessly tossed onto the daybed and burst out laughing. She'd worn this corpse skin so often that her flesh had long been corroded by its necrotic poison. Unless the blood-soaked garment remained constantly against her skin, the gradually exposed flesh would rot at an accelerated rate. By then, she'd have no choice but to wear it, willing or not. Seizing the moment while the crown princess spoke with the abbot, Serafina accidentally bumped into the crown prince. The prince's gaze softened involuntarily at the sight of her. They exchanged intimate glances, utterly oblivious to their surroundings. Serafina led the crown prince to the chamber in the rear courtyard, and he understood her intentions perfectly. Before entering, she turned to me with a stern warning. If word of today's events gets out, you'll pay with your life. I stood guard silently outside the door, listening to the passionate commotion within. After what felt like an eternity, the noises subsided, and I faintly heard the prince's tender voice. Serafina, why aren't you wearing that red dress from last time? It made your skin glow like porcelain. Serafina murmured softly. If your highness likes it, I shall wear this again next time. The crown prince glanced at me once more as he stepped out of the chamber. So you're the prime minister's second daughter. Truly, the prime minister's household breeds beauties. When I turned around, I caught my elder sister staring at me, her smile gradually fading. Such a casual remark was enough to make Serafina see red. That evening, she summoned me to her chambers. With a coy smile, she tilted my chin up. What exquisite beauty! Even I feel a twinge of envy. Dear sister, the next instant, her eyes turned icy as she ground her heel into my hand with vicious precision. I remained silent the entire time, my face contorted in pain, with cold sweat beading on my forehead. His Highness is beyond your station. Cease your shameless flirting in his presence. By the time she lifted her foot, my hand had swollen grotesquely. Only then did she casually summon me to fetch her gown. My fingers trembled uncontrollably as I combed her hair. That's more like it. I want you to understand. Don't entertain improper thoughts. Seeing my lips quiver slightly, she mistook my silence for pain, a smug expression crossing her face. Truth be told, I was faking it. This was never my own skin to begin with, so of course it doesn't hurt. But if I don't let her see my humbled and defeated side, how could she lower her guard and believe I'm just a harmless illegitimate daughter? Dead skin lacks vitality. It cannot heal itself, only conceal, and so, the usable lifespan of the skin grows shorter still. She admired her reflection in the mirror with a smug smile. Watching the dark veins creeping up her back, I smiled too. The necrotic poison had already seeped deep into her flesh. It wouldn't be long before I claimed her skin. Serafina repeated her old tricks, frequently rendezvousing with the crown prince in moonlit trysts at the Taoist temple. At first, she still exercised some restraint, but later, she ceased to fear the crown princess altogether. Flushed with triumph, she openly mocked the crown princess before the servants. Now I see what kind of woman she truly is, utterly incapable of surpassing me. She couldn't even win the crown prince's affection, mark my words. I'll take her place someday. I played along obediently, indeed. Only a blessed lady like yourself deserves such an honorable position. She visibly preened at the flattery, her lips curling into an involuntary smirk. On her better days, she'd even refrain from beating or scolding me. Seeing my heavily bandaged hand, she unexpectedly sent someone to deliver healing ointment. Reclining on her chaise lounge, she remarked carelessly, "Hurry up and heal that hand. You are my sister after all. I won't have you embarrassing me in public, by my calculations." Her smile wouldn't last much longer. Sure enough, within a month, Serafina's formerly slender waist had swollen noticeably. I escorted the physician out of the manor and slipped him a hefty pouch of silver. Serafina raged in her chamber, shrieking, "How could this be? I've taken the preventative draught without fail. How am I still with child?" Her composure shattered, face contorted, hair disheveled. She seized her maid by the collar and hissed, "Was it you, you wretched girl? Did you tamper with my tonic?" As I stepped inside, the room was thick with an indescribable stench of decay. Serafina reclined on the divan, her face caked with heavy makeup that couldn't conceal her withering aura. I frowned, suppressing the discomfort in my chest as I lowered my gaze to the maidservant Prue kneeling on the floor. 2 crimson handprints still marked her cheeks, and the corners of her mouth were faintly reddened. "Serafina never lets me handle her contraceptive brew. She distrusts me, especially as a bastard daughter who'd pledge undying loyalty, yet she isn't thorough enough." The hairpin adorning Prue's head bears the Imperial Court's exclusive craftsmanship. In the deserted backyard, I clearly saw the crown princess's maid slip Prue a fertility potion. Serafina's cruelty towards servants was nothing new. As her personal maid, Prue suffered the worst of it, with just a few honeyed words. The crown princess had Prue swearing undying loyalty. Serafina reaped what she sowed. Even her most trusted confidant was ready to betray her. The crown princess bided her time, then struck back at Serafina in the cruelest way possible. "A woman's reputation is everything. If word got out about her pregnancy out of wedlock, forget marrying into royalty. My father would skin her alive to protect the family name." I patted Serafina's back gently, comforting her. "You're young and strong, sister, and those contraceptives aren't foolproof anyway. I beg your mercy, young mistress, spare me." Prue kowtowed frantically on the floor. It took Serafina quite some time to calm her rage. "Get out of my sight this instant." Prue covered her face and retreated backward. I feigned concern. "Dear sister, why such anger? The child you carry is the crown prince's only heir. The crown princess lacks noble lineage, and her maternal family has declined. Why not devote your efforts to winning His Highness's favor when the prince ascends the throne? Your child's status shall elevate you. Surpassing the crown princess would be effortless." Serafina's eyes lit up. "Yes, I shall secure this child's rightful status." She was lost in her own fantasy, perhaps envisioning herself ascending the throne, reigning supreme over all. When she laughed, her peculiar sense seemed to grow stronger. Watching her cheerful little face, I recalled what my grandmother once told me. She said mountain spirits without the means to craft glamours often resort to petty tricks. To obtain a seductress demon's skin, they'd grovel before her with false devotion. When the demon grew complacent and dropped her guard, they'd steal her enchanted disguise for themselves. Serafina was like a pampered succubus, unwittingly walking into my carefully laid trap. I smiled in agreement while silently counting the days in my heart. What shall I make with her skin? Under the moonlight, Serafina secretly met a black-clad man in the backyard. Despite the heavy cloak, it was unmistakably the crown prince. What is the meaning of this, summoning me so brazenly in public? What would people say if they saw us together? Tugging at the crown prince's sleeve through tears, Serafina pleaded, "Your Highness, how could you say such things? This child I carry is yours. How can you be so heartless?" Rubbing his temples in irritation, the crown prince snapped, "How could you be so careless? If His Majesty finds out, where would that leave me?" Her sobs intensified as she cried, "I've given you my undivided loyalty, even sacrificed my reputation. Does your Highness truly refuse to take responsibility? In that case, I might as well drown myself in the lake. Let's see how His Highness maintains his spotless reputation then." The crown prince's expression darkened the moment she wept. Yet he had no choice but to patiently console her. "Stop crying. When the time is right, I'll petition His Majesty for our marriage. Only," the crown prince abruptly changed his tone, "you must get rid of that child in your belly. If the emperor learns you're pregnant out of wedlock, forget about me. Even your reputation would be ruined." Serafina refused to back down, pounding her chest in fury. "Is His Highness truly concerned for me? Or is he still worried about saving face for the crown princess?" She completely failed to notice the sudden darkening in the prince's gaze. Seeing the prince's expression shift, Serafina finally checked her temper and coquettishly threw herself into his arms. Suddenly, the crown prince's brows knitted in displeasure. "What's that smell?" The prince immediately covered his nose in discomfort. Serafina froze in shock, her face blank with confusion. Ever since her pregnancy, She'd been caking on thick layers of powder daily to mask the medicinal scent clinging to her, convinced her ruse was flawless. Now the crown prince had bluntly exposed her, humiliating this prideful young woman before all. But I knew the truth. That wasn't any herbal remedy scent, but the putrid stench of decaying flesh. With each passing day, the foul odor grew stronger. Perhaps it's the herbal medicine scent on me. Serafina froze in place like a child caught misbehaving. The crown prince's mood ruined. He had no desire to engage further and stormed off in displeasure. Back home, Serafina dug out all her perfumed powders and frantically dabbed them on herself. The mingled odors nearly suffocated me. After what felt like an eternity, Serafina turned from the bronze mirror and fixed me with her characteristic commanding gaze. "Come here, tell me if you can still smell anything on me." Holding my breath, I leaned closer to her. Her eyes widened as she shook her head blankly. "I don't smell anything unusual on you, sis." Only then did she relax, settling back to reassure herself. People can't detect the scent their own bodies emit. The odor seeped from within her, naturally dulling her senses. What's more, the corpse's skin had fused with her flesh, becoming one with her body. That red dress became mere decoration. Wearing it made no difference at all. Serafina was still smugly waiting for the crown prince to grant her a title. Little did she know, the prince had only ever seen her as a passing amusement. From that day onward, no matter what excuse Serafina used to request an audience with the crown prince, he always found ways to brush her off. She could wait, but the child in her womb couldn't. With each passing day, her pregnancy became harder to conceal. Frustrated by the prince's avoidance, she stomped her feet in desperation and marched straight to the Eastern Palace herself. Disgusted by her advances, the crown prince had his consort deal with the situation. This time, the crown princess showed no mercy and openly mocked her. Mission, as a lady of noble birth, should know better than to chase after his highness while still unwed. Should this scandal spread, not only would your reputation be ruined, but would you have your father the chancellor die of shame? I once thought Mission as unattainable as the radiant moon, yet now she's no different from a common fishwife. The crown princess deliberately raised her voice, drawing the attention of nearby servants sweeping the courtyard. Serafina's face flushed crimson as she clutched her belly in agony, her chest heaving violently, clearly suffering from pregnancy complications. "You vile wench, shut your mouth." Before she could finish speaking, she collapsed unconscious, her breath catching in her throat. When she woke up, the matriarch was sitting beside her with worried eyes. The truth will always come to light. With no other choice, Serafina finally told the matriarch the whole story from start to finish. She wept pitifully, painting herself as completely innocent. The matriarch's face grew darker with every word. Despite being 5 months pregnant herself, she had to drink 2 full bowls of miscarriage-preventing tonic to steady her womb. Upon learning her precious daughter was pregnant out of wedlock, she slapped Serafina in a fit of rage. "Foolish child, do you think marrying into royalty means happiness? The crown prince already has his principal wife. You'd be nothing but a concubine. How could you throw away your virtue with such shameless impropriety?" Though the matriarch dearly loved her daughter, she maintained clear judgment when it came to matrimonial affairs. "My father never set his sights on the crown prince. Never mind that the crown prince already has his primary consort. Even if I were to enter the Eastern Palace, I'd never attain the status of principal wife. I've adored his highness since childhood. If not for that wretched woman, would I have been reduced to this?" Serafina collapsed to the ground, covering her face as she accused the matriarch. Has mother borne another child that she'd abandon her own daughter to fate? "I'm your child too, mother, if you won't stand by me. Must you speak to me so cruelly?" She broke into heart-wrenching sobs, as if the whole world had betrayed her. "Foolish girl, when will you see reason? If you want a decent marriage, you'll obey me and rid yourself of that child. Pretend this never happened." Yet Serafina seemed possessed, desperately shielding her unborn child with both hands clasped over her belly, leaving the matron no opening to intervene. The First Lady couldn't bring herself to scold her, such was her motherly love. After calming Serafina, she began pondering how to explain this matter to my father. "My father cares more about face than anything. Forget about marrying into the Eastern Palace. Just the scandal of premarital pregnancy would disgrace our entire ministerial household." Just as the first madam was pacing anxiously, the general's wife unexpectedly arrived at the ministerial residence with Theodore to propose a marriage alliance. In the main hall, the general's matriarch clasped the first madam's hands with an ingratiating smile. "My good-for-nothing son has been smitten with your Shin family's daughter since the palace banquet. He simply wouldn't stop pestering me to arrange this match." Theodore stood to the side, his expression slightly awkward yet unable to conceal his inner excitement. Since Serafina had just taken her medicine and was resting, father insisted I receive the guests. When Theodore saw me, His eyes flickered with uncontainable emotion, betraying his usual composure. The entire scene didn't escape the notice of those present. My father immediately grasped the situation and shot the first wife a mildly reproachful glance. Theodore spoke first. That day when you mentioned being a daughter of the Shin family, I made inquiries afterward and learned the Prime Minister's household actually has a second young miss. Please forgive my earlier impropriety. Second mission. Theodore's mother nodded repeatedly, her eyes gleaming with appreciation. My father had originally thought that as a concubine-born daughter, the pinnacle of my worth would be becoming some wealthy man's mistress to help him curry favor with the powerful. Now that I'd managed to secure Theodore as the legitimate wife of a general's household, he couldn't be more pleased, ignoring the first madam's feelings. My father explained to Theodore's mother with a smile, "You may not know this, but Vivian is actually the legitimate daughter of our household. After her birth, the physicians said she was frail, so we sent her to the countryside to recuperate. Now that she's fully recovered, we've brought her home. It's understandable that people in the capital aren't aware of this," Theodore's mother mused thoughtfully. "So that's how it is. No wonder everyone only knew about the Shin family's outstanding eldest daughter, unaware they had such a clever younger one hidden away." Though these two children do seem destined for each other, the two exchanged pleasantries back and forth, as if on the verge of finalizing the marriage arrangement. The matriarch glared at me in silent venom, resenting me for thwarting her plans. She had originally thought that since Serafina refused to abort the child, passing it off as Theodore's by marrying her into the general's household would solve their urgent predicament. But now that the general's family specifically demanded my hand in marriage, all her schemes crumbled. She could have killed me with that look. If I were to marry into that family, I'd outshine my elder sister, something she'd never tolerate. No sooner had father cheerfully settled the marriage with Theodore's mother than the madam threw me into the woodshed. Stroking her pregnant belly, she spat venomously, "Just as I thought. A little temptress like your mother," feigning innocence with a husky voice. I whispered, "Stepmother, Vivian wouldn't dare." She ordered poison wine to be brought, intending to kill me. "Once you're dead, I'll make sure this marriage arrangement goes to Serafina instead. Keeping you alive would only bring trouble." My eyes welled up with tears. "Spare me, mother. I've never dared covet the general's household marriage." She scoffed coldly. "Do you really think I'd believe you?" The matriarch waved her hand, and the poisoned wine was brought to my lips. "Will you drink it yourself, or shall I help you?" With a surge of defiance, I knocked the poison wine from my lips. Under the first madam's furious gaze, I swiftly pulled a hairpin from my temple and slashed 2 wounds across my face. Blood streamed down, dripping onto the floor to form a dark crimson river. Even the first madam was taken aback. Clutching my face in faint pain, I sobbed to the madam, "Should I die like this? The young master would surely grow suspicious and never truly cherish my sister, but if he sees this disfigured face, his heart would turn cold, then he'd finally recognize her virtues. I beg you, madam, spare my wretched life. I'd gladly toil like an ox for my sister till my dying breath." The madam watched my trembling form before cautiously asking, "How can I trust you'd serve your legitimate sister with undivided loyalty?" Tears streamed like spring rain as I whispered, "This drifting weed of a woman clings only to memories of my birth mother and old nurse. I ask but this, when time permits, erect a humble marker so her soul won't wander friendless in the afterlife." I said that deliberately. A beautiful face is a woman's greatest asset for survival and securing a good marriage, yet I'd rather disfigure myself than leave Serafina's side. No wonder the madam suspects ulterior motives. I fabricated that excuse precisely to convince her and lower her guard. Having destroyed my own looks, I've permanently lost any means to threaten Serafina. I've schemed for days to steal Serafina's skin. This temporary suffering is but a means to stay by her side and seize my chance for vengeance. The matriarch turned, studied my face, then smiled approvingly. "What a dutiful daughter indeed. Very well, I shall grant your wish, since you're so obedient. You may accompany your sister to the general's household, but should you dare cause trouble again, remember I can reclaim your life whenever I choose." On Serafina's wedding day, crimson bridal processions stretched for miles amid thunderous drums and gongs. She collapsed onto the first madam's lap, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mother, I'm terrified." The first madam's eyes glistened with tears. "Your mother will handle everything. Just focus on becoming the noble mistress you're meant to be." Before I was sent off in the bridal sedan, the first madam warned me in a steely voice, "Serve your mistress well, or you'll regret crossing me." When father first saw my injured face, he gave the first madam a 10 lashing that left no room for excuses. But then it occurred to him, I was no Serafina, not someone he'd watched grow up, so of course he wouldn't fully trust me. With the matriarch's silver tongue, he helped deceive Theodore's mother, claiming I'd contracted a sudden illness with grotesque facial sores that made me unfit for marriage. Theodore's mother sent attendants several times. Seeing the faint but hideous scars beneath my veil, she became about 70% convinced. After lamenting the situation, she had no choice but to accept it. The engagement between the two families had been common knowledge for some time. To avoid gossip and speculation about the complications behind the arrangement, they simply had Serafina take the bride's place. After dismissing her previous maid for incompetence, Serafina appointed me as her new personal attendant. An unsightly maid posed no threat to Serafina's status. There was no fear I'd seduce Theodore with my looks. If anything, my plainness served to accentuate her beauty. On that day, veiled and silent, I supported Serafina through the wedding rites. Theodore spotted me in the crowd, dressed in his crimson wedding robes. When we were alone, he grabbed my hand desperately. "Vivian, I knew it was you. When Mother said your illness had relapsed, I refused to believe it. But your face," he hesitated, reaching for my veil. Is there something you're not telling me?" I gave a wry smile and removed my veil. To conceal the original wound, I poisoned myself. Now it's festering with hideous pustules. Theodore recoiled in shock, stumbling back 2 steps. "Still so childish, can't even handle this much." Watching his retreating figure, I steeled my resolve to obtain Serafina's skin as soon as possible. On their wedding night, Theodore didn't stay in Serafina's chamber, claiming his old ailment had flared up before retreating to his own quarters to recuperate. For the next fortnight, Serafina didn't even catch a glimpse of him. Serafina's initial disdain turned to agitation. What's Theodore playing at? Is he truly so incompetent that he can't even consummate the marriage? She caressed her pregnant belly and looked up at me. "As my dowry maid, we rise and fall together. If you can't bring my husband here, you're worthless." Her smile turned vicious. "Worthless people have no right to live." The next day, I carried tea into Theodore's study. Seeing it was me, he froze momentarily. I lowered my head and placed the tea tray on his desk. "Her ladyship hasn't seen you in days. She sent me to request your presence." He abruptly set down his book and grasped my hand. His gaze earnest. "Vivian, do you truly wish me to visit your sister?" As if realizing his recent behavior had been improper, he spoke with unexpected remorse while explaining himself to me. "You know it was you I originally wished to marry. Only," I gently pushed his hand away, my gaze resolute. "My elder sister has been exceedingly kind to me. The lack of fortune lies solely with myself. Vivian only wishes to serve by my sister's side. To see you daily, my lord, would make this life worthwhile." He started in surprise, questioning, "You truly aren't being coerced?" I lowered my eyes. "Of course not. My sister treats me with utmost kindness. All this is my own choice. If you care for me, my lord, show her more kindness. That would earn my deepest gratitude." After a long contemplation, he finally nodded. That night, true to form, he entered Serafina's courtyard, and there I stood guard silently outside the door. My loyalty to Serafina wasn't genuine, it was simply what duty demanded. Should I ever steal her skin and live behind her face, Vivian would cease to exist. Only Serafina would remain in this world. In that moment, I would become her, and she would become me. My task is to make Theodore genuinely accept Serafina as his wife, paving the way for my eventual transformation into her. From that day onward, Theodore didn't set foot in her chamber for an entire month. After their night together, Serafina found her excuse and stopped caring whether Theodore visited or not. I personally informed Theodore's mother that Serafina was with child. Theodore's mother beamed with joy, marveling at Serafina's good fortune to conceive within just a month of marriage. A steady stream of tonics flowed into her courtyard. Free from dealing with her mother-in-law and husband, she couldn't be more at ease. Yet her days of pregnancy rest didn't last long. Within half a month, she was driven mad by relentless waves of nausea. "Where's the medicine? Bring me the prenatal tonic now." The moment I stepped inside, a teacup hurled by Serafina nearly struck me. Her hair was disheveled as she leaned against the bed, panting heavily. "How could this be? I'm only 3 months pregnant. Why has my skin become covered with these hideous marks?" Not just her belly, inky, wrinkled streaks crawled across her entire body. Her face looked a decade older, the sight alone sending chills down one's spine. "Sister, please don't be angry," the physician said with proper care. "Your health will gradually improve." Watching her gulp down the prenatal tonic, I smirked inwardly. Her severe morning sickness wasn't just from the corpse skin draining her vitality. I'd been secretly adding cinnabar to her herbal concoctions daily. Prolonged exposure would naturally cause digestive distress and relentless vomiting. My true intention was to numb her mind. Despite Serafina's meticulous care for her health, she still suffered a miscarriage. That night, Serafina was seized by a sudden nightmare. She screamed in her sleep and uncontrollably clawed at her own belly. She woke to find herself bleeding below, and by the time the physician arrived, it was beyond remedy. Beneath her pristine white robes lay dark, foul-smelling blood that reeked horribly. The maids in the courtyard recoiled from the stench, too repulsed to approach. Only I remained by her side. tending to her and cleansing her body. After all, the stench was far more pungent when we used to scavenge for corpses among the dead. After her miscarriage, Theodore came to visit once, but I made excuses to turn him away. That was Seraphina's wish as well. In her current disheveled state, she naturally wouldn't want to be seen. After expressing her sorrow, Theodore's mother entrusted me with Seraphina's care. The matriarch rushed to the estate upon learning of her daughter's suffering. Mother, I've failed you. I couldn't protect the child. Clutching the matriarch's sleeve, Seraphina sobbed about hearing a baby's shrill cries at night. My daughter keeps dreaming of a bruised child clinging to me, that toothless creature with a bloodied mouth. It must be the dead child coming to claim her soul. She's terrified. The matriarch's face contorted as she gagged behind her hand, clearly revolted by Seraphina's stench, fighting nausea. She wiped the corners of Seraphina's mouth. When she regained composure, Seraphina's ashen face and vacant stare told her something was terribly wrong. Before noon, the lady of the house had summoned an elderly Taoist priest from outside the estate. The lady acted discreetly, having warned the servants in the courtyard, so no one knew what transpired in Seraphina's quarters. Seeing Seraphina in a dazed state and babbling nonsense, the lady became convinced she was possessed by evil spirits. The old priest's face darkened the moment he laid eyes on her. He glanced at me and said coldly, "The lady's child was stillborn long ago." At these words, Seraphina turned deathly pale. The lady must have known the child couldn't survive, yet she defied fate. The stillborn became a vengeful spirit, thirsting for blood. After all this time, the fetus demon has been gnawing at her very organs. The corpse poison has seeped into her bones. Hence the stench of decay. Seraphina finally broke down. This is my child. How could I ever bring myself to do it? When her pregnancy was first diagnosed, the physician warned her frail constitution might not sustain the child, yet she stubbornly carried the crown prince's stillborn to term against all warnings. Now she reaped what she sowed. The matriarch clenched her fists in frustration before desperately asking the Taoist priest if any remedy remained. The priest motioned for the matriarch to dismiss the servants, then leaned in to whisper in her ear, "The only way is to use the flesh and blood of a close relative as bait to draw the demonic fetus from the womb." He made it painfully clear, the only kin present who could be bled for this ritual was me. I showed the Taoist priest out. As he left, he seemed to have anticipated this. "With skills like yours, why resort to murder? She was your own flesh and blood, yet you draped that mother-child wraith's cursed hide upon her. The corpse poison had already seeped into her marrow, with that dead fetus festering inside her for days. Any longer and she wouldn't have survived." I let out a cold laugh as I removed my veil. Every man for himself. That's the law of survival. No one would willingly bear this disfigured face day after day. Besides, my dear sister left me no way out either. With deliberate provocation, I added, "And tell me, when you had my sister use my flesh as medicinal ingredients, wasn't that murder too?" The Taoist priest turned ashen, visibly struck by my words. His pointing finger trembled with suppressed rage. "You're truly beyond redemption. You've made your bed, now lie in it. Mark my words." I smiled faintly. The outcome remains uncertain. Even without the pregnancy, Seraphina wouldn't have lasted much longer. Her skin had long been mine for the taking. How can a person live without their skin? From that day on, Seraphina followed the Taoist's advice and brewed potions with my blood daily. My hands were covered in scars from bloodletting, my face deathly pale and my body gaunt, yet Seraphina's complexion grew rosier by the day, the dark markings on her waist fading slightly. The matriarch said calmly, "Consider it a blessing to serve your sister." But Seraphina's joy was short-lived. Just as her health showed slight improvement, the dark markings that had faded came back with a vengeance, appearing even darker than before. Such violent fluctuations finally took their toll on both her physical and mental well-being. Her pent-up frustration, compounded by my daily provocations, gradually eroded her constitution until she fell into a 3-day coma. When she finally awoke, handfuls of her raven hair began falling out, clutching her fallen black hair in despair. She collapsed into the matriarch's arms with hysterical sobs. The distraught matriarch wept herself into fainting spells, even triggering premature labor pains. Initially, the doting matriarch would make daily trips despite the hardship, but as time wore on, the matriarch's own health began failing. With her delivery imminent, she couldn't possibly devote herself entirely to this daughter. I watched coldly as her patience visibly wore thin. Today Seraphina sent for the matriarch again. But the lady claimed illness and remained at the Shin residence. Seraphina wouldn't listen to the servant's explanation, persistently demanding, "Does mother think me worthless now? Has she abandoned me?" Frowning, I tried to console her. "The first wife has her burdens. The physician's pulse reading suggests a 90% chance the child's a boy. If true, he'd be our only brother." She took my words to heart, murmuring repeatedly, "After all these years, Mother still clings to the hope of bearing father a legitimate heir. As I combed her hair, I said, since your health improved before, it proves that Taoist priest wasn't some charlatan after all. Did that old Taoist mention any other methods? Serafina's eyes lit up as if grasping at straws. Yes, go fetch that priest immediately. If mother won't help me, I'll take matters into my own hands. That Taoist priest mentioned earlier said the flesh and blood of kin could cure her corpse poison. As the First Lady is her closest relative, her flesh would naturally be more effective than mine. The priest's appearance confirmed Serafina's suspicion. The old Taoist wore a knowing smirk. How cunning of you, manipulating her to kill the First Lady for you, avenging your mother's death without lifting a finger. I smiled politely. Without Sister Siren's help, I truly couldn't have pulled this off. Neither the First Lady nor Serafina would ever guess, even in their dying breaths, that this Taoist priest before them is actually my agent, a siren wearing human skin. Don't forget, you still owe me 10 wicked hearts. Wearing this revolting old face all day to help you turns my stomach. Unless I suffer enough to show Serafina tangible results, how could I make her stake everything on that old Taoist priest? The greater the hope we give them, the more devastating their despair will be. They'll either perish or lose their minds. 10 days later, Serafina lured the first wife out under the pretense of praying for her unborn child. In the chamber, Serafina's eyes burned crimson as she gazed at the first wife's radiant complexion. Mother, you're nurturing this pregnancy so well. No wonder my life means nothing to you. The matriarch looked perplexed and said suspiciously, Serafina, what nonsense are you speaking? Though I may be with child now, you'll always be my firstborn daughter. My heart belongs to you. As the eldest daughter, you must understand the child in my womb is the Chancellor's sole legitimate heir. The household will inevitably rely on your support as first sister. Serafina's eyes darkened gradually. The heir, always the heir. Mother sees nothing but that unborn boy in her belly. With a bitter laugh, she retorted, if mother insists I'm your most cherished daughter, then for my future's sake, why don't you make this little sacrifice? Before the matriarch could react, hidden servants emerged and pinned her down. The sight of those vicious men brandishing butcher knives finally made her understand the situation. You're insane. Only at this moment did true panic seize her. She crawled desperately towards Serafina, hoping to spark some remnant of maternal conscience in her daughter. But Serafina had long lost all reason. Deaf to every plea, I hummed a tune, coldly savoring the first wife's agonized screams and the sickening crunch of blade parting flesh. As the last note of my humming faded, the chamber fell into complete silence. When I entered, I saw Serafina clutching a bowl of crimson liquid, her hands trembling as she drained it in one gulp. She gazed at me vacantly. Vivian, you're all I have left now. I gathered her into my arms, murmuring, don't be afraid, sister. Vivian will never leave your side, until, become you, replace you. Days later, rumors spread through the capital. The Prime Minister's wife went to the temple praying for a safe pregnancy, only to encounter starving rioters upon leaving. Driven mad by hunger, the mob swarmed her carriage with malicious intent. The first wife fought desperately, but only provoked the rioters who ultimately murdered her in an exceptionally brutal manner. When the Chancellor's servants found her, the first wife's body was barely clothed, her unborn child mysteriously gone, leaving only a bloodied corpse. The young mistress of the Shin family, who had accompanied the outing, escaped with only minor injuries thanks to her maidservant's desperate protection, but shaken by terror, she was confined to the manor for a month to recover, seated in the palanquin. I listened to the rumors outside and curled my lips in a faint smile. On the day I flayed Serafina, she was barely clinging to life, whimpering incoherently without uttering a single word. The necrotic poison had seeped into her bones. She was living on borrowed time. My daily doses of toxins in her medicine left her utterly spent. Living flesh yields far better than corpse skin, more supple, more responsive to the blade. She died still wearing that blood-stained robe stolen from me, the necrotic venom racking her body with agony till the end. Tears streamed down her face the moment her flesh parted from the skin. I smiled reassuringly. Sister, the pain will stop once we remove the skin. From this day forward, I shall live in your stead, dear sister. When her skin settled upon me, it regained its rosy glow, more radiant than ever before. The blood-soaked garment, having drunk its fill of wicked men's blood, would naturally serve its greatest purpose. When my father heard how cruelly the first wife had died, her unborn heir perishing unjustly with her, rage seized his heart. He coughed up blood and took to his sickbed, never to rise again. His temples gone grey, he lay muttering incoherently upon the bed. None of this, of course, happened without my hand in it. In Serafina's name, I sent him many tonics. Those were nothing but miracle cures to hasten his demise. A faithless wretch like him doesn't deserve to live, wearing Serafina's skin. I broke character and played the perfect devoted wife, tending to my husband with utmost care. The combination of a beautiful face and gentle demeanor worked like magic. Within days, Theodore was utterly bewitched, losing all sense of reason. Though my family had fallen from grace, Theodore's tenderness made my days bearable. With time, even Theodore's mother grew fond of me. You're truly blessed. There will be other children in the future, I smiled in agreement. Theodore entered my courtyard at night, his clothes damp with evening dew. In the candlelight, his eyes shimmered with emotion. I failed to care for you properly before, but I swear to treat you well from now on. I lowered my head.